Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube. And for the first time in about 8 months, we get to react to a full slate of NFL football, Sam. Preseason week 1 in the books.
Yeah, not instant reactions, but the full review of preseason week 1.
It's preseason for everyone. So this is like our preseason Monday morning review show. It's a practice run. And just like the NFL, you know, the starters don't play the entire game.
Yeah.
It's not the full run. You're just trying it on for size.
Right.
So we will not be going game by game. We're just hitting the high notes, right? Like, and then we're going to, bail like the starters do, rest, go golfing. But no, we're going to hit all the big stories from week 1 of the preseason here.
Won't be going game by game. Also won't be going at 7 a.m. It's already 9.
So for you, those of you who are new here, 7 a.m. every Monday, we'll be right here in Check the Mic studios, eventually Jeff Ruby's studio. And we'll be doing that 7 a.m. every single Monday morning, reacting to all the action.
Do they have a logo we have to put on the wall, or are we just going to hang a steak up there?
No, my thought is they deliver a seafood tower for every show, even at 7 a.m.
But the seafood
tower is the logo.
If the seafood tower, visually impressive though it would not immediately tell you that's Jeff Ruby's.
Yeah,
like other people do seafood, you know what I mean? They need to have their own logo or something.
Okay,
right?
We'll do a logo, steaks and seafood tower. We'll do it. Preseason week 1, we're going to react to all the stuff. I wanted to touch on really quick because 10 minutes after we did our AFC and NFC West preview, Rashawn Slater injured, out for the season. Obviously a big blow for the Los Angeles Chargers there. One of the best left tackles in the NFL and just got paid.
Yes. So on the one hand, great for him. He got his money before he got hurt, which who knows how long that'll linger, how much that'll affect his play, et cetera, et cetera. So from a personal level, if you're going to lose yourself to the season with a bad knee injury, at least you got paid before that happens. From the Chargers' point of view, catastrophe. You lose one of the best left tackles in the NFL. The fact that you paid him doesn't really matter. You expect him to still be good coming off the back of that. But, yeah, brutal blow to their season just before you head into it.
So there might be some shuffling on the offensive line with perhaps Joe Alt moving from right tackle to left tackle. Trey Pipkins is available with
that
the
makes
right
the
tackle
most
experience.
sense from their point of view, I think.
It does. Normally I say just replace, keep the right tackle on the right side, but they do have a right tackle replacement in Trey Pipkins, so I could see that being the thing. And as we know, at this time of year, very difficult to just go pick up a starting left tackle anywhere around the league. But maybe on Thursday show, we can try to think about some available options there for the Chargers. All right, man, you ready to go?
Yep.
Preseason week 1. We're going to start with Travis Hunter. And I just want to reiterate here, Travis Hunter, Jacksonville Jaguars, his debut. And I never want to diminish this story, the impact of this story, that Travis Hunter's trying to play both ways as a wide receiver and a cornerback in the NFL. We've seen people dabble in this. They used to do it a lot more way back in the day. But this is a unique story, and I don't want to diminish this. Even if Travis Hunter struggles on one side of the ball or whatever it may be, it is a fascinating story, and he's just an incredible potential player here. 18 total snaps in his debut. He played 10 snaps on offense with the starters and then played 8 snaps on defense with the backups from our friends over at True Media. Snap counts there. Travis Hunter's debut, not a lot happening here, but any initial takeaways here on Hunter?
Yeah, well, obviously the first part was, getting to get an idea of what his deployment might look like at the NFL level. That was kind of hampered a little bit by the fact that they didn't – they've been talking up this idea of him being a two-way player, and he could win offense and defensive rookie of the year. And like Jacksonville, as much as anybody, has been hyping up the idea of what he could be as a two-way player. But in his preseason debut, they didn't really show us that because they played him with the starters on offense, right at the start with the first drive or two. And then they played him with effectively the second-string defense, where he became a starter once the second string came in. So those two things didn't coincide, right? Like he didn't go from offensive drive straight to defensive drive and back again the way we're all envisaging during the season. He played with the first-team offense and played largely in the slot. And then he played with effectively the second-team defense and was a starting outside corner for them. Now, I think the assumption is once we get to the regular season, those two things will meet, and he will be doing both at the same time. But in this specific game, that's not the way it went.
Are they just looking at this because the starting corners for the Jags, Monteric Brown and Tyson Campbell. Tyson Campbell's a $19 million a year player. He's starting on one side. They brought in Jordan Lewis from the Dallas Cowboys. He's their slot. Could play on the outside if needed. Is this just a matter of Travis Hunter hasn't beaten out Monteric Brown, that he's just not the starter opposite Tyson Campbell yet, and that they want him to work his way into the starting lineup?
I mean, it could be that. I think it's also probably a smart thing to do to, what's the point in testing the hardest part of this right away? It's already difficult enough to transition into the NFL, get your feet wet as any type of NFL player. There are guys out there playing one side of the ball who are being eased into it and not being thrown in there immediately with the starting unit because it's tough. So, yeah, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with saying, well, while we are asking him to do the hardest thing in the NFL, I would say, even above play quarterback, you are going to be a two-way player at two difficult positions right away. Why add the extra layer of difficulty in a preseason game when you don't have to,
The other part that was notable, I think, about Hunter's usage here was that he did play in the slot, as you mentioned, at receiver. He was an outside receiver at Colorado, and I think we both looked at him as certainly slight, but as an outside receiver with slot skills as well. He's got after-the-catch skills and everything. 2 catches, 9 yards, didn't really show. He did have a couple after-the-catch type of opportunities and didn't really make good on those. But with De'Ami Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., is Hunter going to be more of a slot? Maybe in 2 wide receiver sets. Obviously, He's playing outside. But I was not necessarily expecting him to be a full-time slot receiver. And maybe he is in De'Ami Brown. And he's only playing in 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. And that's another way to maybe handle the pitch count a little bit when it comes to Hunter.
I mean, I think Liam Cohen has estimated that he's going to play, 80% of snaps or whatever. Now, that was kind of asked to put a percentage on it, and I don't know if he's talking about 80% of the sort of standard wide receiver number or 80% of offensive snaps, which are not the same thing. You know what I mean? Your number one wide receiver, even as good as he is going to be playing not 100% of offensive snaps, the way the NFL works. So either way, though, I think what we're seeing is he's going to be their number 2 wide receiver, quote unquote, I would say, that will play a lot in the slot. And maybe more importantly, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, but also from a real life perspective, I think when he's on the field, they are going to be forcing a disproportionate volume of targets his way. They're going to try and maximize how much they use him when he is playing offense. So obviously Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be their number 1 wide receiver, going to be the guy that does everything. But when Travis Hunter's on the field, they're going to be trying to get him the ball because they're not going to be playing him, 100% of the snaps. They're specifically going to have him at a certain level and then really maximize the impact that he can have when he's out there.
Because of the nature of preseason, we only have a handful of action plays, so to speak, to really break down. So offensively, right? Yeah. You've got 2 plays on offense, 2 catches, out of the slot, little yak. So not much to discuss there other than, hey, would have loved to see him break a tackle, do something dynamic. Okay, fine. Defensively, not targeted, but did have a missed tackle when fellow rookie Caleb Johnson broke it out.
Rookie on rookie crime.
Yeah, and look, this is when one of the things when coming out that people had questions about with Travis Hunter. Did he have some big plays in the run game? He had a great forced fumble against Baylor to save the game at one point, but many of of all the negatives, there weren't many for Hunter. One of them was, is he going to tackle, play the run? Same thing that Will Johnson had, second rounder for the Arizona Cardinals. How much, and this wasn't, well, what do you make of that? And I'll give you one more addition to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad play. Classic cornerback play. The run ends up spilling to the outside. It ends up being one-on-one running back versus cornerback. Your job is to come make that tackle. If you do, all good. If you don't, it's a big play. And he didn't. He got smushed to the ground, essentially, by Caleb Johnson. So, yeah, bad play. Exactly like you're saying. Preseason's all about backing up the priors, Let's only focus on the things that match what I thought, and let's ignore the things that didn't. If you were one of those people that were like, I don't know about his physicality, I don't know about his tackling, I'm concerned about that. I mean, that was a play that exactly highlights what you were talking about.
I'm back and forth on the importance of this because obviously a cornerback's first job is to cover.
Yeah.
Right? And whether it's man-to-man, whether it's zone, and I have a lot of faith in Hunter as a cover corner, right? The old saying, the cover corner, their first job. The other part of it I go back and forth on, where clearly the run game is not as important for the cornerback. But when we talk about game plan specific, when teams run duo, right? When they run duo and everybody's mushed up inside, one of the reads, if it's too mushed up inside, is to bounce out. And what teams do, when you have weak tackling corners, teams run duo all the time because that's what gets the one-on-one. All you have to do is take one little bounce out and you're one-on-one with a corner. So teams exploit that. And we're talking about 4 or 5 times a game.
Yeah.
If this becomes an issue, teams are going to say, all right, 4 or 5 times a game, tackle us in the open field. And the impact of this play, if you miss it, is the same as like a 20-yard catch or a 30-yard catch.
It's disproportionately problematic if it's an issue, right? Is that if you screw this up, like if you're bad at this generally, it might not come up for half a season. You could go an entire run of like 6, 7, 8 games and it never manifests as an issue. However, the first time it does, it could be a 50-yard touchdown. Like, you're basically, when you miss that tackle, you're now relying on probably the free safety as the only guy that can stop it being a major problem or a big play on offense. So if and when you make a mess of that play, it's a huge problem. It's just that it doesn't come up that much.
All right. It's too early for all of this. I mean, the biggest takeaway on all this is every player looks like they did 8 months ago. Particularly the quarterbacks, but we get to see them in different uniforms. So yeah, it was a good debut.
Which, as you said, does change things for some players. There are players for some reason, and I've never been able to work out why, that when you put them in a different uniform, they look different.
Do you agree on my initial take on that was Emeka Egbuka? Looked
not really. I kind of saw what you were saying, but no, not really.
Might be the single-digit number that he's wearing.
9.
That messes with you sometimes.
But he was a 2, wasn't he, in college?
He was, yeah, but it's a longer number, right? The 9. It's not like 11. Like if he had 11, he'd look.
11
really
would definitely change things. But there are players. I agree with you. I don't necessarily agree that Egbuka is one, but there are players where when you put them in a different uniform, for some reason they look like a completely different body type. Suddenly, they're longer, leaner, smaller, whatever. Like it's a different person for some. Like it's bizarre.
Yeah. So Hunter, good debut. Anything else to add?
No, as I said, I don't. So number one, they didn't ask him to do the one thing that everyone's sort of looking to see, what happens when he's playing offensive drive, then goes straight into defensive drive, then goes straight back into offensive drive. But I don't think that means that's not the plan. I think that just means they didn't want to do that preseason game 1, and I don't have a problem with that.
Let's go to his Colorado teammate, Shedeur Sanders.
Let's.
Hot button issue here. Shedeur Sanders, his debut was fantastic overall, I think, for the Browns. Shedeur looked very comfortable. 2 touchdowns, probably his best throws of the day. Finished 14 of 23, $138, 2 touchdowns, as I mentioned. Also scrambled a couple times and looked pretty good from a movement perspective. What were your initial thoughts on Shedeur Sanders? We did an instant reaction right after the show, and listen, the people want to discuss Shedeur Sanders. I would say it's one of the biggest. It's the biggest. Somewhat random.
When was the last time a 5th-round pick had this kind of
I mean, that's unfair to say it like that.
But them?
I would say it's the most individual player hype on both ends of the spectrum since Tim Tebow, where no matter what happened, right? Like Tim Tebow would go 2 for 15 in a game and people are like, you don't believe he's a leader, he's this, he's that. Or he would lead this incredible comeback and actually have some good plays, and somebody would be like, no, he's terrible, he's got this long throwing motion. But more so on the other side, there were just some unbelievable Tebow believers and fanatics.
Always. And still
no matter where he signed.
There are people that will be like, he could have made it. He was a victim of the system.
I still believe he could play tight end for Urban Meyer. I still believe he could play outfield for the Mets. Like, there are still believers. The same thing with Shedeur Sanders, to the point where if you say one negative thing, I didn't really like this one pass, it's like, no, you don't believe in Shedeur. You're just, So it's as hot button, I think, as Tebow right now.
Yeah, it really is. It's wild discourse. Like, it is dangerous out there in the Twitter jungle tweeting about Shedeur Sanders, because people are just looking for anything. If you tweet anything that isn't universal praise coming off the back of this game, you're a hater, you want him to fail, you hate the Sanders, you're mad at Dion, like all that kind of stuff, right? Conversely, if you're like, praising anything in the game, it's like, well, come on, this is preseason, it's meaningless, it's blah, blah, blah. So, look, I think we're on fairly safe ground on this show as impartial, middle-of-the-road, rational take givers. And when it comes to Shedeur, both of us ranked him as QB2 in this draft, right? I said he was closer to QB1 than he was the rest of the pack, the Jaxson Darts, the Tyler Shoughs of the world. I thought the Browns should have taken him at 2 overall. I also think they did a great job getting him in the 5th round when they decided not to do that, when their approach was to basically bail on quarterback in this draft until lower down. Even after drafting Dillon Gabriel, eventually they got to the 5th and decided, what the hell? Let's roll the dice. Like, what's the worst that could happen at this point? Let's take a shot at it, right? So I kind of liked all of that. And all that goes to say, look, he didn't win the job based off this game, but he was given an unusual opportunity where he still, or certainly going into this game, he was probably QB4 in the depth chart. He had been getting very little, if anything, in terms of like first-team reps during training camp. He's behind Dillon Gabriel, who was drafted 2 rounds ahead of him. He's behind Joe Flacco, who's the presumed number 1 quarterback going into the regular season. And he was behind Kenny Pickett, who was just, a guy on the roster. But 2 of those guys were out with a hamstring heading into this game. And the other one is old man Flacco, who they're probably not going to play in much, if any, of preseason because he's going to be the week 1 starter. So all of a sudden, Shedeur gets this weird opportunity to say, hey, you're getting the start in preseason week 1. And by the way, you're probably going to play most of the game because the only other option available signed like 2 days ago. So go out there and have fun. And he did. He went out there with that rare gift of a quarterback who actually wants a chunk of preseason snaps and played well. Looked in charge, looked in control, looked poised relative to the situation, and definitely raised some eyebrows.
Yeah, and look, my takeaway on a lot of the quarterbacks is they looked a lot like they did 8-9 months ago, a lot like they did in the draft process. I thought Shedeur Sanders, accuracy-wise, was very good. His first touchdown, thread the needle, between 2 defenders was outstanding. I thought his pocket movement on the second touchdown and then finding the open man, nice scheme, and then Shedeur, bought time because there was quick pressure there. I thought that was outstanding as well. A couple plays where he was trying to evade defenders, wasn't able to do it, but I don't think it was detrimental. I think that was a big question. Man coverage early on, he reads it, he's got nothing there, he picks up a first down with his legs. So yeah, there was some really nice accurate throws in there. I thought he was okay managing the pocket, had a few nice plays in there, and overall it's extremely positive. It was against a couple series against the Panthers starters. It wasn't that exclusively.
Right.
They had a short field after a turnover on one of those on that first touchdown. So overall it was extremely positive, and I think the bottom line is when we say, look, Dillon Gabriel's ahead of him on the depth chart, that's been the truth to this point. The Browns also drafted Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. But what we said way back in our, hey, what should happen this year? For me, the best case scenario for the Browns is Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel plays as much football as possible. Whoever plays better wins the job. At some point, you don't want Joe Flacco as your starting quarterback because one of these rookies has played so well that you don't need to see what you have in almost 40-year-old Joe Flacco. You want to see what you have in the rookies because, oh, by the way, you've got 2 first-round picks next year, and there's a lot more quarterbacks coming out. So I think Shedeur, at the very least, has earned way more reps with the 1s and the 2s, and challenge him. Challenge these rookies and see what you can get out of them. As far as the challenge goes, Shedeur passed this first test with the Browns' backups going up against the Panthers' 1s for a little bit. He absolutely passed the first test.
Yeah, so that's an important piece of context. He was working with a second and third string unit throughout this game. At least to start with, he went up against the Panthers' starting defense, albeit minus a player or 2. And look, this is like people will try and minimize that as a thing because, the Panthers had a bad defense last year. It's like that conversation of would the worst team in the NFL beat Alabama in a given year? The worst team in the NFL would stomp Alabama by 50
Baylor.
points.
Right. They're better than Texas Tech.
They would stomp the best college team by 30, 40, 50 points every single year, right? That's the gulf between those two. So the worst starting unit in the NFL is significantly better than a backup unit, right? That's the difference we're talking about here. And, okay, he went 3 and out in that first drive. He shouldn't have, though. Like, the third down conversion, he put the ball in the right place. The tight end bobbled it, didn't run to the sticks either, so it was half a yard short.
And I think if he catches it cleanly it's a first
probably
down.
a first down as well. But certainly he could have caught it cleanly, or he could have run himself past the marker. Either one of those things probably makes that a first down. The point is, Shedeur put the ball where it needed to be a first down on that play, didn't get rewarded for it. But that's a significant thing. And then he went out there and played well. Overall, I mean, look, this is the narrative about him at draft time was this is probably the most accurate quarterback in this draft. His big problem is what happens. Look at all his sort of behavior under pressure and look at how much pressure he was under behind a god-awful offensive line at Colorado. The question was, what happens when you change the volume of pressure he's under? And at least in this game, you saw a bit of that, right? The tendencies are still there for some, not necessarily ideal behavior under pressure, running backwards, trying to play, trying to get away from things. And sometimes it works and sometimes it's not going to. But I think already you saw, if you just dial down the amount he's under pressure, you see a much more calm, behaved, poised version of Shedeur Sanders in the pocket generally, because that kind of thing has an effect. But the point you made is critical, right? Like, what is your takeaway from this? Well, the takeaway isn't Shedeur is amazing. He's going to be the number one quarterback of this draft. He's going to the Hall of Fame, right? The take is, okay, the Browns should be looking at this and saying, we need to have a look at him now, seriously, like as an option. Before, it's like, sure, we'll roll the dice, but he's fourth on the depth chart and getting no reps. Now it's like he just showed you he deserves reps. So if you're not looking at this coming out of this game as Cleveland and saying, let's give him some first-team looks, let's give him a real chance to move himself up the depth chart, well, now you're doing him a disservice.
The one other thing I'll add, we all said, like, have you ever seen this for a fifth-round pick? He's not your typical fifth-round pick because the consensus, the expectation was that he was going to go in the first. Now, you could say, well, the consensus was wrong, the media was wrong, but there's still enough people, like any quarterback, there was enough people that probably said he's a first-round caliber quarterback. At worst, a second-round type of quarterback, and then he falls because of off-field, whatever happens, right? Plus a little bit of scarcity. At the end of the day, though, the goal is to get the most productive football players. And if the thing that made him fall isn't so much the on-field, if he's producing on the field, then the Browns have to give him those opportunities, right? Continue to prove us wrong, right? Continue to prove the entire NFL wrong that you were on your way to going undrafted. We stopped the slide in round 5 and just continue to prove it wrong. And if the reason that he fell eventually comes back to bite, then it comes back to bite. Fine. But give him opportunities.
Well, it's a really weird dynamic because, I don't think anybody would tell you that he was a fifth round. Well, not anybody. Okay. Most people would not argue that he was a fifth round player based purely off the tape, right? The reason he fell that far is because of the circus that comes with him. And whether that is thinking that Dion would be more involved than he appears to be right now, whether that was simply what we're talking about, that he's like the most polarizing, hyped, person in the NFL since Tim Tebow, right?
Or that Nike was doing celebration tweets after a two-touchdown preseason game.
It's just however you want to term it, and this does not necessarily mean it's his fault, right? But this comes with him. So I'm sure there are plenty of teams that simply did not want to deal with this at all, right? Regardless of how good you think the quarterback is. And if you don't think he's great to begin with, you certainly don't want any part of this. And that's why even at draft time, people were saying once he gets out of the first round, once he gets beyond, the Saints at the top of the second, he's going to fall for a while because the math changes. Now he's a backup, and do you want this as a backup? Again, doesn't mean it's his fault, but do you want Nike hyping up your backup quarterback when he makes a pass in random third-string training reps, right? No, most teams don't. So that changes everything. However, the Browns chose Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. So even if you say, look, he's better than a fifth-round pick on the field, and the Browns sort of went out there and said, we actually think Dillon Gabriel in the mid to low rounds is a better option than Shedeur Sanders. So he's in this weird spot where he has to overcome a guy that his own team effectively said is better as a prospect.
Right. And look, eventually the on-field play is all that matters, but they're going to give Dillon Gabriel opportunities because just as of 2 weeks ago, they thought he was a better option.
Yeah.
And so how much has actually changed?
And I also think, because Dylan Gabriel was a third-round draft pick, that's a high enough pick that he's almost certainly safe on the roster. Like I don't really see a world where Dylan Gabriel gets cut heading into the season. I think there was absolutely a world where Shedeur Sanders gets cut heading into the season. But I also think the roster spot to claim this year, if he continues this kind of play in preseason, is not Gabriel's. He might claim his spot in the depth chart, but he's not claiming his roster spot. The roster spot to claim belongs to Kenny Pickett.
Yes, absolutely.
Like what I think the target for, obviously QB1 is down the road. In my opinion, Joe Flacco is almost nailed on as the week 1 starter. The starting job to be had is in the October world, right? Like when Flacco eventually plays his way to the bench, then you're first man in. That's how I imagine the QB1 going. The dynamic that Shedeur is chasing is, number 1, make the roster. Number 2, jump Dylan Gabriel to be the first guy off the bench when Flacco plays his way to the bench. That I think is his, that should be his target now for the next while. Gabriel, same thing, right? I think you're safe on the roster, but he's now under pressure to play well to keep his potential number 2 spot.
I think you've summed it up extremely well. The final thing I'll say, for those defending Shedeur Sanders and any sort of criticism against him, you need to look to Shedeur, who graded his own performance a C+.
Yes.
He is a Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur Sanders is the most honest take giver.
He is a Shedeur Sanders hater. Shedeur himself.
No, he's the most honest person out there because it wasn't perfect, right? There was a play that could have been intercepted, which, the wide receiver didn't do a great job of working back to it. However, it was behind him anyway, and he would have been in trouble even if the wide receiver had done a perfect job on it. That wasn't great. Early in the game, he felt like he was calibrated a little bit high on ball location. I think the adrenaline was getting to him and he was sailing things a little bit. He had, there were a couple of plays. He took a sack against the blitz where even if, again, a wide receiver screwed him a little bit, you got to know that's coming. You got to get rid of the ball, got to throw it away. That was a criticism of his pre-draft. So it wasn't perfect. C+, maybe a little bit harsh, but, it wasn't like, oh, look at him. He's like, some of the hype, which is not his fault, people are losing the absolute run of themselves and being like, this kid's a star. He's a super. This is the best preseason performance we've seen. It was a good preseason debut. It wasn't great. It wasn't, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. It was good work. That was a solid preseason debut, and you absolutely raised some eyebrows doing it.
And just full disclosure, we will continue to talk about Shedeur Sanders because people care and people watch and listen.
Yeah.
We will just continue to bring the honest, lukewarm takes without the extreme views that you might see on the shouty shows.
The last point I would make, by the way, is if he does become a starter, win a starting job, outperform everybody, blah, 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 this is a phenomenal endorsement of the thing you said for years and what the Browns apparently decided this year, which is just take shots on quarterbacks, even if you don't think that guy is the guy. The Browns clearly in the draft effectively said, we do not believe Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback. If they did, they would have either drafted him at 2 overall, or they'd have come back into the first round at
or 34,
or they'd have drafted him in the
third round. Yeah,
you know what I mean? They would have done several things along the way that weren't what they did. The fact that they passed on him so many times, then drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of him, says we don't believe that Shedeur Sanders is a starting quarterback in the NFL. The fact that they then decided in the 5th round, you know what? What's the downside to rolling the dice anyway? What if we're wrong? What if Shedeur actually is the player we don't think he is? That is phenomenally smart process because maybe you will be wrong and he's going to go out there and perform like he did in this game. And if he does that every single game from this point on and is a really good quarterback, you pick this guy up in the 5th round, even though you didn't think he had any chance of doing that.
And that's
smart.
And if you hit 10% of those, because I said the same thing about Kellen Mond or the chat's asking about Hendon Hooker.
Right.
The point is, what's the base rate? You're going to miss 9 out of 10. You might miss 19 out of 20, but the payoff is so valuable.
Yes.
If Shedeur Sanders is the starter for the Browns, and if he's good enough that a team that has 2 first-round picks
doesn't
next
have to
year
use them.
Decides, you know what? Shedeur was so good as a rookie. We don't need Garrett Nussmeier. We don't need Lenore Sellers. Actually, you're not even picking at the top. then the payoff is so incredible, where the alternative is a backup linebacker, special teamer, so that you absolutely take chances on quarterback.
I mean, that's what the Eagles did, right? They positioned themselves to have 2 first-round draft picks the year after they gave Jalen Hurts the starting gig, because if Jalen Hurts didn't get any better, they were going to need to draft a quarterback at the top of that draft. The fact that he did, and they were then able to use those 2 first-round draft picks to go nuts in the draft, and it's like, oh, look, how he's making magic happen. Like, it's so smart. And maybe there's an argument to say, how high in the draft you want to roll that dice. Like, maybe the 3rd round is too high to say take a shot on a quarterback you don't believe in, right? But the 5th round, I think you're seeing, is absolutely worth it, particularly if you can, trade back somewhere in the first 4 rounds and get yourself an extra 5th or whatever. Just somewhere on day 3, grab a quarterback you don't believe in, right? Because what if you're wrong? Maybe he's the guy.
Brock Purdy, or they become that guy.
I mean, maybe the actual strategy should be grab one you do believe in, but if one you don't,
keep taking them.
Yeah, if one you do believe in isn't available to you, grab one you don't believe in.
Even one you don't believe in,
because you might be wrong.
Yeah, because you're probably wrong most of the time. So it's good. All right, well, we've got a lot of other QBs and other. I can't wait to get some of the other players. We're going to rank our top 5 rookie performances of this weekend. Where does Shedeur Sanders land? Tune in, stick with us later.
Well, if he's not number 1 on both boards, we're haters.
Oh, I cannot wait to be hated on. Let's discuss one of the QB battles here. It was yesterday. Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shough, both playing for the Saints. Spencer Rattler got the start. He's in his 2nd year, 5th-round pick last year. The second most famous 5th-round pick to be discussed on this show.
In the last 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. And then Tyler Shough, he made his debut, 2nd-rounder for the New Orleans Saints. They're going to actually be battling for the starting job here, which is why we're discussing this. What were your initial thoughts on Rattler and Shough yesterday?
Well, also in that game, the shine that Trey Lance had from the Hall of Fame game kind of wiped out reasonly quickly. Now, he made some plays on the ground, but, the passing production disappeared.
Twitter hype was still there, though, even if the stat line wasn't.
I mean, look, I didn't think either quarterback looked particularly good. Spencer Rattler. I mean, my first takeaway initially is what we've said for a while, which is that situation around whoever's going to start is not good. The offensive line looked pretty rough. Now, they were without some weapons, so that didn't help. But, Spencer Rattler looked like he was under duress quite a lot in that game. Tyler Shough came in. Clearly, the game plan for him was just like immediate, insta releases as and when you can. Get the ball out of your hands fast. And actually, he did a reasonable job of that for a while. Pick 6 was ugly. The double move touchdown was nice. That was kind of it.
I thought Shough was fine overall. I thought he was better than Spencer Rattler. I think Rattler still taking negative plays. He took a lot of sacks last year. Shough wasn't great, I don't think, from a pocket management perspective either. I thought Shough was good in the quick game.
Yeah.
Quick game over and over again.
Which clearly seemed to be a plan.
Which was mostly accurate, and Rattler's quick game was a little all over the place. So I didn't love that.
I mean, I don't think Rattler is a quick game style of quarterback generally.
No, he's not. So Shough was a little bit better, but he was also, I just think timing was, I think he was slow. Just everything was a tick late for Shough overall. The pick 6 clearly was. It was a stare down. It was a little extra hitch, and you're not reading the leverage of the cornerback who's sitting outside, sitting on the outbreaker. The cornerback, by the way, Eric Rogers, undrafted free agent out of Rutgers, who had a monster game. And between him and the safety, the undrafted safety that had the monster Hall of Fame game, you've got the Chargers.
They keep finding these.
The Chargers scouting
staff.
People. Yeah, the last couple of years, especially in the secondary, 5th round or later, they are finding players.
Yeah, they're either on an incredible run of luck or they've captured something in the secondary.
Something to keep an eye on with the Chargers, but they are getting some production from low round and undrafted players in the corners and safeties over the last couple of years. I thought Shough was okay overall. You made the point to me off air. Every quarterback had a bad throw that coulda, woulda, should have been picked, and Shucks did, and was a pick 6. It was probably the worst throw out of all the rookies. But Cam Ward, we'll talk about in a minute, and Shedeur should have had a pick, and Jaxson Dart had one that was sketchy, but none of those were actually caught. So I think in the totality of the analysis, Shucks looks worse. Worse, and it was, but it got caught. But overall, I thought it was fine. At Louisville, I described him as he runs the offense pretty well. I think that's why our friend Greg Cosell liked him so much. but there was some bad decisions in there, and we saw elements of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was worse because it was a pick six, but it was no worse in terms of not getting it anywhere near his receiver and putting it right to a defensive back than Cam Ward's was. It's just the worst that was going to happen with Cam Ward's if it was caught is it was going to be an interception. It was very unlikely to get returned for 6 because of the way it was, caught. But yeah, it's interesting that like each one of those guys had a pass that could easily have been picked off, and the only one that actually was Tyler Shough. So immediately the narrative is going to be different because look, there's an interception against his number.
When he was playing on time, I thought he threw the ball accurately, or at least hitting the right receiver. Pocket presence is the thing I'm keeping an eye on with Shough. He kind of ran into a couple sacks, and then of course what he does in those muddy pockets where I think he's got some volatility to his game.
The big thing though is that offensive line for the Saints. Like, is it going to be able to hold up whoever is playing quarterback for them and give them any kind of chance to work with?
Talise Fuanga moving to the right side, he got beaten pretty badly by Caleb Murphy for a strip sack, and then Kelvin Banks, though, the first-round pick, on the left side held up extremely well. He looked good. I believe in Fuanga. I think he'll be okay. The interior had some questions besides that other block by Fuanga. Anything else on the Saints and their battle? I mean, so the reports are that it is a legitimate battle between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, and that they're trying to get both players with the ones. I would assume this flips. A lot of teams will do that, right? Shough gets the start next time with the ones. But for now, I think Shough played better with the backups against more backups. But I think he looked a little bit better. And I think ultimately, obviously, they want their second-round quarterback to get the starting job.
I mean, I think between last year and what we've seen in one preseason game, there's no real sign that Spencer Rattler is going to be the guy for them or even be the guy enough to beat out Tyler Shough. So, yeah, like unless Tyler Shough goes on an insane run of turnover-worthy plays, I think you pitch the starting job to him. However, the other thing is, like, it's terrible. I mean, if you're the Saints, you're going to be calling Philadelphia asking how much would it cost to get Tanner McKee based off what we've seen from him. Like, there've got to be better options than this.
I don't know if Shuck's that bad, but, they're not calling Tanner McKee to replace their second-round pick.
They should be.
It's a second-round pick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but maybe he shouldn't have been.
Well, that's a whole different story. The other big story from way back on was Thursday night. Anthony Richardson in the Indianapolis Colts and his battle with Daniel Jones. We were so fired up. We're like, all right, Anthony Richardson, get to watch him play again. He's battling for his job. There were a lot of reports out of camp that he was a little bit more accurate, playing better. A couple nice throws early on, and then gets absolutely popped by David Ajabu, gets smoked. It looked bad. I mean, we knew that he got injured and left the game. Ultimately, it was because of a dislocated pinky that got popped back into place. So luckily, we're not going to have Anthony Richardson missing a lot of time, but he missed enough time the rest of that game after going only 2 for 3 for 21 yards. Just another game where Richardson gets hurt, doesn't finish the game, and if you didn't see the play, most of the time, the average fan sees the unblocked rusher, and the quarterback gets popped and blames the offensive line. This was Richardson, who should have been hot off the rusher and was looking to the other side and just did not read it out. And that brings some of that question to the table about, avoiding hits and all of his injuries historically. Like, the pre-snap read was not there for Anthony Richardson, which is the reason why he got popped and ended up getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, a worst-case scenario, I think, almost worst-case scenario. Worst-case scenario would have been a serious injury that puts him out for a while. This is the next worst-case scenario, which is you got hurt again. It doesn't really matter what the degree of hurt is. The point is you went down in a game again and didn't finish it again at a time when your own staff is sort of saying, look, we can't rely on this guy playing 17 games. Well, you only made that worse. And it looks like it was your mental screw-up that created the problem in the first place, right? Can't guarantee that, but pretty much everybody is looking at that play going, that's on Richardson. It's a misread in the...
Shane Steichen was on, it's our friend, Kay Adams, fellow fan over here. He did it tactfully.
Yeah.
But he's like, we got to know where our problems are.
We do. We got to know.
That is coach speak for we got to know where your hots are.
Yes.
We got to know.
It's a misread in the protection, And even it's not only is it a misread in the protection, but you didn't even know you'd misread it because you didn't see the blitz coming to be able to fix it and get the ball out behind the guy. You know, it was Doolin looking at him as the hot route, like literally right behind where the blitz is coming from. Turns, hooks up, ready for the pass, and Richardson's reading the other side of the field. He's like, what?
And by the way, like, quarterback is just obviously such a fascinating position to watch. Those are the plays where the great quarterbacks, or even, you know, the average to good quarterbacks, just do it and it looks, look at this simple pass. Like Mahomes just hit the little 5-yard hitch.
It's nothing. It doesn't
Drew
even
Brees
register.
hit the 5-yard hitch, or Brady, or whoever, or your average quarterback. Like, that's, you know, Kurt Warner, who's, you know, taken to Twitter, hates every NFL scheme in the NFL right now because it doesn't look like his.
Yeah.
Every quarterback makes those plays look easy. You throw behind the blitz, it's a 5-yard completion, and it's like, oh, easy. But it's like part of the job is doing that and not taking a sack and getting popped.
Easy, and it's so easy that it doesn't even sort of register in your brain as anything like a positive play. It's just you recognize what it was, you put the ball in behind it, it's a routine, expected play from a quarterback. And Richardson did not make the expected play. And consequently, not only did he take a sack, a negative play, but he got hurt in the process of doing so. The extra layer of bad for him is that Daniel Jones came in and played pretty well. Like, his stats were not amazing, certainly in terms of completion rate. There was a bunch of drops in there, which did not help. Overall, I thought his performance was pretty good. So for the second time this offseason, a Richardson injury has opened the door for Daniel Jones to come in, take snaps away from him, take reps, and look okay in doing so. You know, we've said before, if this is a 50-50 competition or if it's a 50-50 outcome in training camp, I think they give the job to Richardson going into the season. If it's 60-40 Richardson, they probably give, or 60-40 Jones, rather, they probably still give the starting job to Richardson. But this is the type of thing that's going to make them go the other way and say, I want to give you the starting job, but you can't last more than 5 minutes without getting hurt.
The other thing I'll add is, even for just this season, I think a lot of it comes down to their risk appetite for the style of quarterback that they want. They're both big-bodied, athletic quarterbacks, Richardson and Jones, but they're completely different stylistically. Jones is going to dink and dunk and throw underneath, which might be appealing with this group of playmakers that the Colts have. By the way, Tyler Warren, I thought, looked fantastic on just 4 targets.
Yep.
And not because he did anything spectacular, but just because it looked like he had a pretty good feel for the short pass game. They caught a screen. I think they're going to feed him. I think if you do want to give Anthony Richardson, if he wins the job and you want to give him a few more easy buttons to press, Tyler Warren is a perfect easy button for the Anthony Richardson completion percentage bump. But from a risk appetite standpoint, do you want the Daniel Jones going to run the offense, not going to create a ton of big plays, but, you know, going to get the ball to the open man for the most part? Or do you want to try to hit the home run? Because that is what Richardson brings to the table, is the home run ability as a passer, as a runner. And if Tyler Warren and, say, Josh Downs, both of those guys have enough of the short area patrolling of the field to help, maybe you can extract a good season out of Richardson. But things like this are a setback, right? Misreading protection, misreading the blitz, getting injured again, an absolute setback in that development. We'll get to see him again. We got 2 more weeks here in this battle, and you and I are going to be down there. We're going to Colts camp this week. We'll have a full report as we go to Colts-Packers joint practice, God willing, of course. But that's the plan this Thursday.
Nice.
Great. Anything else on Richardson and Jones?
No, as I said, I think Richardson can't keep opening the door like this, you know, to Daniel Jones, because the Colts brass already sees him as this maybe brittle quarterback that they can't trust to stay healthy and play. Like, he's in the Jimmy Garoppolo world now. Completely different style, but the thing that really got Jimmy G on the chopping block for the 49ers is they couldn't trust him to play all season, even regardless of how well he was playing.
And he was pretty good when he was out there. But there was a point where Jimmy G played like 48% of available snaps over a 5-year period. Richardson has been inconsistent when he's out there, flashes of good, and he's missed a huge chunk of the time. So, yes.
The baseline of play was way higher for Jimmy G than it is so far for Anthony Richardson. But the point is, even just focusing on the injury record, they couldn't trust him anymore. Richardson is in that world now, and that would be one thing if there was nobody behind him on the depth chart to push him. But Jones is sitting there in what might be a 50-50 competition anyway, and every time you get hurt, it's just giving them one more opportunity to say, you know what, is it worth it? Let's just give Daniel Jones a starting gig.
All right, man, quick break to tell you about our friends over at Brooklyn Bedding, new sponsor for the show here. Brooklyn Bedding handcrafts every mattress in their Arizona factory. No middlemen, no gimmicks, just top-tier quality, honest pricing, and real American craftsmanship for a better night's sleep. Sam, you got a mattress here. You got the opportunity to test it out.
Yeah, two nights now. Last 2 nights we've been in the new mattress. Perfect process. I sent you a picture. The box just arrived outside my garage door. Tiny little box. You take it upstairs, you undo it, and then it's one of these things where once you cut the plastic, it comes out like a life raft, right? Just expands to the size of a full king size mattress. Stick it on the bed. We'd been using this very old one that had predated the move over here. That's how old the mattress was.
Irish mattress.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you have a good American mattress.
Now we got a full American king-size mattress, and it's pretty glorious.
Fantastic. It sounded like it was a lifesaver. It was just like a life raft for you.
Exactly.
Brooklyn Bedding. So we'll continue to get the full report from you, full reporting on the Brooklyn Bedding mattress. But you can go to brooklynbedding.com and use our promo code CheckTheMic at checkout. You get 30% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. That's brooklynbedding.com. And promo code CheckTheMic for 30% off site-wide. Make sure you enter our show name after checkout so they know that we sent you. That's it. Mm-hmm. You got to say Check the Mic at checkout, 30% off. It's brooklynbedding.com, promo code CheckTheMic.
And as you pointed out, the real KPI when it comes to mattresses at our age is, did you wake up with back pain? And 2 nights now, not woken up with any kind of back pain.
It's huge. Are you sore, right? Because I sleep on some bad mattresses. I wake up, I'm like, I knew I'm in a hotel or I'm at a friend's house or whatever it is. So that's huge for you.
2 for 2, no back pain.
brooklynbedding.com, 30% off right now. Let's go New York Giants. Jaxson Dart in his debut, and we'll work our way up to the number 1 pick, Cam Ward, who's everyone's sleeping on. Jaxson Dart had a nice debut for the New York Giants. He's in his, we'll call it a battle with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson got the start. Jaxson Dart came in second. Jameis Winston came in third as the inspirational QB3. But Jaxson Dart finishes 12 of 19 for $159 and a touchdown. Beautiful 29-yard touchdown pass to Lil Jordan Humphrey as the highlight of the outing.
Yes, that was a very nice play. As we already mentioned earlier, he did have one play that could have been picked off that was a little bit iffy. Overall, I thought he played pretty well. The interesting thing there was, we got an idea of, look, I think this depth chart is now fairly static for the moment. Russell Wilson, QB1. Jaxson Dart looks like he's going to be QB2. And then Jameis Winston is the third guy. So Dart is gunning for that primary backup role there. And then, with Russell Wilson at this point in his career, who knows if he's going to play his way to the bench at some point during the season, and Dart becomes the guy that comes in.
One thing I want to reiterate over and over again during the preseason, as much as a one-game sample size is small, obviously the preseason sample size is even smaller. It's a half
Portions
or it's a quarter or whatever. But the stat line matters even less. And the
a lot of yards after the catch for Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, and the grades, and I don't care about any of that stuff. Even when I was at a company that put out grades, I didn't care about the grades. What I'm looking for, and we'll get to this later when we talk about the rookies, I'm looking for the things that we think are going to translate at the NFL level, and then the impacts that they might have. So from a what did we see on film perspective from Jaxson Dart, the touchdown pass was great because he was getting popped. He was getting hit, and that was
really nice play.
That was reminiscent of his best throws at Ole Miss, right? When I'm watching his tape, I'm like, he's all right, and then his best plays, it's like, man, he is fearless. He's getting hit, and a lot of his best plays are when he's getting smacked in the mouth, and he makes the play. Now he's got some bad plays when he gets smacked in the mouth too, which I always reference. Those are my Nick Foles, Joe Flacco-y type of plays, where there's some volatility to it, but there's a fearlessness that sometimes ends up in this great touchdown, right? There's a fearlessness there that ends up in, I think, some volatility, but the high-end plays. So far, we're seeing the high-end plays. But I thought his pocket movement was very good, too. He stepped up, hit a really nice pass on a 2nd and 15, had a really nice scramble in there, too. I thought I didn't think he was a great athlete in college. I might rethink that a little bit. I thought he moved pretty well. My description of him was a good scrambler. I thought he had a good feel for scrambling, but I didn't think he was that athletic as far as pocket athleticism goes. That was good the other day. I thought his pocket athleticism was maybe better than I gave him credit for coming out. So it's still early, but traits-wise, I was impressed with what Jaxson Dart brought to the table. And then I just want to mention stat-wise, a couple screens and that little pass in the flat that went for 28 or 30. That inflated the stat line a little bit. But I think it overall matches up with good performance by Jaxson Dart.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few people out there, tweeting cut-ups of various players and stuff. There's a guy called Nick Pentikoff who also has a YouTube account that does this kind of thing as well. He's got a cut-up. You can go and just watch every play of Cam Ward, every play of Jaxson Dart or whatever. TV copy, but still, like it's a nice little, almost like a highlight thing. Because the NFL's YouTube, for some reason, has stopped doing this. They used to do it every preseason. Anyway. Even if you just like run through a video like that, you immediately start to see, there's a lot of yards after the catch in this from Jaxson Dart, which is not, I mean, look, it's part of the NFL. It's not like it's a negative necessarily, but it does mean that you immediately.
It's just it's a call to action to not look at the stat line and compare stat lines and say this is better than that because of these 5 numbers. That's
exactly. All. If you're looking at the box score and are like 12 for 19 or whatever it is, like looking at his 150 something yards, 12 for 19, and be like, oh, that's really impressive. Yeah, but quite a lot of that was done after the catch on stuff that wasn't necessarily him working. I think we can say this now, like PFF grades are not nimble enough to deal with preseason sample sizes. They're not designed for that.
I probably said it on that show at the time because we had to say, why is this guy 79? Like, who
exactly.
cares?
So look, the larger the sample size you're dealing with, the better the PFF grade is. Preseason, it just can't handle a guy playing 17 snaps because one play is going to swing the 0 to 100 number by 10, 20, 30 grading points, depending on what the play is. So it's less important than ever when you're looking at these things. Focus on traits, as you said, focus on the things that you wanted to see for a guy.
Yeah.
Focus on the context, who's he doing it with, who's he doing it against. Those are the things to look at for preseason, not the PFF grade and was it 80 as opposed to 70 or 60.
So I thought it was a good debut for Jaxson Dart.
Yeah.
Look, we'll talk a little bit Abdul Carter later on. The Giants are going to be a fascinating team because when we rave about Abdul Carter later, if the defensive line is as disruptive as they can be, they're going to be in a lot of games. And I think the offense, look, I still don't love the offensive line, and I think Malik Neighbors is going to be dominant, but are there enough dependable weapons next to him? But they could be feisty, is what I'm saying. They could be feisty. And I think it'll be Russ early on, but they have this brutal schedule, and the whole time, even if they are good and feisty, they might not show up in wins, and then the pressure's going to be on to go get Jaxson Dart and get him in there. But I think this day one kind of reminded me of J.J. McCarthy's debut last year. I think J.J.'s was a little bit better. I think there was more big plays from J.J. McCarthy, like 1 or 2 head scratchers. And I think Dart overall it was impressive. And it's like, all right, maybe we'll see him earlier than I had anticipated based off of this. But I thought the short area accuracy was a little scattershot. He showed the touch throw. I described him as the best touch thrower in the draft. I think we saw one of those. So like a lot of the quarterbacks, many of the same things that we saw on film last year, but certainly more positive than negative for Jaxson Dart as well.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants are another team a bit like the Saints where your big question heading into the season is, will the offensive line be bad enough to undermine everything else? Like they've got some weapons, Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy had some flashes in this game as well. Scadaboo's hurt, but he's to come in as well. Like they've got some playmakers to work with, and regardless of whether it's Russ or Jaxson Dart, the question is going to be like, will that line be bad enough that whoever it is under pressure so much that it's going to be a problem?
All right, we're finally going to get to the number 1 overall pick. See, we're part of the lack of hype that Cam Ward is getting. Halfway through the show, finally getting to Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I made the point the other day. I was shocked that the NFL Network did not air his debut.
Okay, can we take a pause and just discuss the way that preseason is being broadcast generally? Because it's wretched.
For multiple reasons.
Yes, multiple reasons.
Let's do it.
Number
it's
one,
a perfect
right?
time right now to complain. Let's go.
Exactly. Number one, we are being forced to pay some ungodly sum of money for NFL Sunday Ticket in order to be able to watch all these games, right? The idea that every preseason game is not automatically folded into Sunday Ticket or some automatic, like free to air, here's every game is nuts. The fact that every team is able to go and like negotiate their own local preseason broadcast deal. And so you need to sign up either to NFL Plus or like just hope that it's on TV. NFL Network is out here. I don't even know what their strategy is for this, but it's like mostly a studio show, and then we'll go into a game and show you a drive or two and then come back. They cut away from 2 live games. There was 2 of them going, and they're only showing one of them. They cut away from 2 potential live games to start previewing a third in the studio. Who wants that, right? So you're forced to sign up to this NFL Plus thing because the NFL has farmed that out to like third-party, IT people. It is an unmitigated heap of crap. It is almost unusable.
Dude, can we hold on? They're NFL Plus might want to sponsor us.
Well, then they should fix their product. It is utterly useless.
You cannot
the worst
do
aspect
that.
Of which is,
what if they want us to help push their products to our millions of fans?
Then we will say, fix your thing, and then I'll talk about it.
Carry on.
It is utterly useless. The worst aspect of which is that every 7 seconds it is playing you a Celine Dion song.
I thought I was just crazy. I mean,
which means if you're using multiple devices, which is the only way you can see multiple games, Celine Dion is basically playing in your brain
so bad.
Constantly.
Thursday night, there was 3 games on, and I had 2 games at a given time.
Yeah.
And so I have the volume on both, right? So I have the volume so that like when things peak, it's like, all right, you go to this one, go just to remind yourself, but you're already moving back and forth. And they play the ad, not what per commercial break, twice per commercial break, and often back to back.
Correct.
And then because the song, it's going to make me hate Titanic. It's going to make me hate this song.
You were a big fan of Titanic before this?
I mean, it was a good movie. It's a good movie.
Okay.
When I was in high school, it was big. It was the summer blockbuster of '98 or whatever it was. It was huge, and they're going to ruin it.
They're going to ruin it.
I heard that song more in a weekend of preseason action than I have since my sophomore year of high school when it came out.
It's already the type of song that anyone old enough, songs that are played to death over a period of time, and you basically can never listen to them again properly because you've already heard them 7,000 times, and it's ruined, right? Not that this was ever like my go-to song or anything, but it was played so much when it came out that it's already like you've already heard it more than you ever wanted to hear it for the rest of your life. If I never heard this song again for the rest of my life before this NFL preseason, I would have been fine. And yet now they are overdoing it again on top of that. I was trying to work out.
Friends at NFL Plus are going to be very upset with us, Sam.
I was trying to work out if it was worse when the 3 devices that you had it on synced up so that all 3 of them were playing the song at the same time, right? And you had like here, and here were all playing Celine Dion in your head. Or when they synced up in such a way that this one played Celine, and then this one played Celine, and then this one played Celine, so that for about 2.5 minutes straight, all you heard was Celine Dion.
The back-to-back is what killed me. Because it played higher than the rest of the volume too. So like and then it got to a point where you could hear the buildup. I'm like, I hear the buildup, it's coming again. Then I started hearing the buildup when it wasn't even there, and I was waiting for it. But there were points where I had 4 devices. I had one computer with 2 screens, another computer with a screen, and then like an iPad. And because I didn't even use my TV this weekend, it was all devices. And
because you have to, because the NFL Plus doesn't have an app for any TV that you're using.
And I swear it definitely hit 3 times all at the same time at one point.
And then the other thing is you'd be like, well, that's fine, because all we'll do is as soon as Celine comes on, I'll just change the game to a different NFL game on NFL Plus. But if you do that, the app will crash, it won't work, and you'll have to spend 15 minutes logging back in to make it work again.
And you can't rewind.
No,
on NFL
because that will break it as well. NFL needs to put some actual investment into NFL Plus if they want to charge people $90 or whatever it is to use this thing. I'm fine playing that. And frankly, I would pay you another $50 to never have to listen to Celine Dion again. If you had an in-app purchase to take that damn ad off the system, I would pay you another $50 to get rid of that. As long as the thing works. Just make it work. That's all I'm asking.
By the way, it's advertising NFL Plus.
Yes, the thing you're already watching it on.
I'm already
unbelievably
subscribed. Granted, I'm only subscribed monthly.
Right.
And they're trying to hook me for the annual.
Right. But why are they playing an ad on the thing you're watching the ad on?
I will buy the annual right now if we could cancel the commercial.
If it takes away that ad.
Anyway, now the Titans fans are now.
Cam Ward.
we have the victim complex that are Titans fans right now upset that we're not talking about Cam Ward.
I mean, he threw the ball 8 times or whatever.
I have reports from practice though too.
Oh yeah,
for Cam.
Oh
Ward.
yeah, you there?
I was there at practice. All right, let's talk Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans. I thought Cam Ward looked good. Now look, the caveat with every single quarterback: if the worst pass that he threw got picked, kills the stat line. It looked awful. He had a bad misread.
Yeah,
I thought there was a great comfort level with Cam Ward in the pocket. By the way, the pocket looked good as well. The Titans' offensive line. That is something to keep an eye on. There is a chance the Titans have their best offensive line in about 8 to 10 years. What was there was one of those.
Just who did it look good against?
Bucks backups?
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Either way, on paper, we said they're in creep back toward average territory. There was the point when Ben Jones was the center and Taylor Lewan, famous podcaster, was left tackle. Like they had a good, one of those solid across the board offensive lines, 2018, 19, 20 range.
Yep.
I think they have a chance not to be that good, but the best since then. So I think that's great. Cam Ward mentioned earlier this year, may have been tongue-in-cheek, but he said Calvin Ridley's like the best wide receiver in the NFL, and he just kept feeding him. So maybe he believes it. He has a unique style overall, Cam Ward. The low arm slot, the quick release. He's very twitchy, just as from an athletic perspective, throwing motion, twitchy. He drifts in the pocket, which is usually a no-no. But he had one of those, let's drop back to 12 yards, which again is usually a no-no. But if you make it work for you, Mahomes has found ways to make it work for you. That's going to be interesting to keep an eye on because it stresses the offensive line in different ways. But if they know where you're going to be, it might work, and it creates a little bit more space to maneuver the pocket. But I thought overall, he delivered, zipped the ball around comfortably, looked good, had one bad read in there, and it was a nice debut for Cam Ward. I'll talk a little bit about practice in a minute, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that he's getting lower billing than Shedeur Sanders or Jaxson Dart is simply, to me anyway, he played a lot less. And the less you play, just in terms of reps in a preseason game, the more meaningless it is.
My initial point, though, was NFL Network, before we complained about the product, NFL Network said, we are going to show you every Shedeur Sanders snap. Fine. Well, the Tennessee Titans have the number 1 overall quarterback. They were playing their game at 7:30, and so it would have been a perfect Game 3 of the triple header on Sunday for NFL Network to play, but instead they played the 8 o'clock Jets-Packers game. But when Andrew Luck was the number 1 pick, like Jameis Winston was the number 1 pick, every number 1 pick probably has their game on NFL Network. Now, look, you and I, we have to cover every game. We get NFL Plus, right? Maybe they're trying to sell subscriptions. If they're trying to sell subscriptions, you put Shedeur's on NFL Plus, and everybody's going to go buy it.
Upsell you.
It is just kind of crazy that NFL Network wasn't like, hey, number 1 overall QB's debuting, we're going to have it right here. Instead, it was, year 5 of Justin Fields going up against Jordan Love and the Packers. It was a weird move, I think.
Weird editorial decision. Yeah, look, it's always weird when you're like, look, other than the really bad decision, he looked good, but that's kind of the analogy. And the smaller sample size you're talking about, the more ridiculous a statement that is. But it's true. He had one bad read, bad mistake that should have been picked off and wasn't. And look, if you're new to this show, we believe those are important plays, not they don't matter because it didn't happen, right? Like you can't keep doing that, otherwise it is a big problem. So that was a bad play that didn't show up in the stat sheet. Outside of that bad play, he did look good. He was poised. He was there's easy arm strength there, and from weird angles as well. He made a play or two when he didn't necessarily have his feet under him, still fired the ball out there. And the connection to Calvin Ridley looked good. So those are all good things. It's kind of tricky, though, when you're like, from a percentage standpoint, that one bad play is a pretty significant chunk of his plays.
Yeah, but the thing that happened is after it got dropped, and the thing that we kept citing based off his Miami film, was he going to let that mess up the rest of his game or whatever?
Sure.
He bounced back and led the touchdown drive, and there he was good after that as well. So I thought it was a nice debut for Cam Ward. I saw him at practice twice last week when I was traveling through Nashville. The first practice I showed up, it was his worst practice. And that's the danger of training camp practices when you have like 15 of them.
Yeah.
I showed up for the worst one. Luckily, the second practice, he played differently. But the practice I saw, they were challenging him. And it's a fascinating debate. And I heard Manny Diaz, the head coach at Duke, talking about this. Like, how do you treat either a new quarterback or a young quarterback at practice? Do you want to challenge them so that it's so difficult that so by the time they get into the game, it's like, I've seen all this? Or do you want their confidence built up?
Yeah.
And I've heard coaches debate this. The Titans were challenging Cam Ward on this particular day. Denard Wilson, defensive coordinator. I mean, they had eight men up on the line of scrimmage. It was a third down day,
and this is why.
And it wasn't vanilla third down day. This is what you're gonna see,
right?
Like Brian Flores type of stuff. Go get him, kid. And it was a rough one for Cam Ward on that particular day.
And this is why, I mean, we've made this point as well, but J.J. Watt was tweeting about this, which is why you can't just report, stats from training camp for quarterbacks, because you don't know when this is the day, when this is happening. If you're just tweeting out completion percentages or whatever, you don't know if it was a day like this when they were coming after him with, let's run the Brian Flores playbook and see if he can handle any of it, or if it's like, we're going to play soft coverage today and just let him boost his numbers, right? And you're just a beat writer out there tweeting the completion rate and the stats and the yards with none of this context. Like it's just disingenuous.
So yeah, I saw him on that rough day. I mean, he just wasn't seeing it. It was a tough one. And then I saw him a few days later, and it was much better. They ran some 2-minute drill. I think there's an element to his game. I think if they were running hurry up, and when they were running this 2-minute drill, there is a comfort level with Cam Ward there where it's just instinctual go play football. That is better. So I thought he looked better then, and it looked similar to what we saw against, context, Bucs backups, what have you. But I think overall, feel pretty good about it. Fascinating throwing motion. It is a really low slot. If he's in batted passes, sometimes they're an overrated discussion because people think it's just height or low arm slot. To me, it's mostly where you're going to throw the ball. Like if you throw a lot of passes short middle, you're throwing low trajectory, you're going to have more batted passes. But Ward's arm slot is so low. It's a little Aaron Rodgers-y, but even lower, I'd say. It is a sidearm slot. Excuse me. It's just something to keep an eye on. I think he's going to have to find passing windows. I think there'll be a point where teams just say, because he's a dynamic runner, we're not going to go all out rushing him at points, and we're going to sit there and try to bat passes and mess up passing lanes. So that'll just be something to keep an eye on. Because he had a few batted passes when I was there, and you can just see it. Like it's just a low trajectory, low arm slot. But I like what I've seen from Cam Ward overall.
Yeah.
But as a rookie, I've seen his ups and downs now, between practice and in the game.
And that matters more.
And that matters way more. No, but it's like I haven't seen I saw mostly good Jaxson Dart. I saw mostly good Shedeur Sanders. I didn't get to see the downside to them because I didn't see them at practice. But it was just a reminder that, you're going to have good days and bad days sometimes as a rookie.
Yep. Anybody else we need to talk about in terms of rookie quarterbacks? Is that all the important ones?
Jalen Milroe had a really nice run, and, it was okay overall. But nothing else specifically. A couple other quarterbacks that we did want to touch on. J.J. McCarthy returned.
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings. Didn't do a whole lot. It wasn't the same as last year's debut where he was outstanding, then got hurt, but he stayed healthy this time, so I think that's more important.
Critically, we're, 24, 48 hours later, and we haven't heard that he's got a knee injury that's going to send him out for the season. That's important. Good step in the right direction.
He finished 4 for 7.
So Jefferson wasn't playing, but Jordan Addison was the next guy there, and he's, copped a suspension to start the season. But the J.J. McCarthy to Jordan Addison connection looked good as well.
Yeah, so nothing about the performance was notable other than he played football, J.J. McCarthy. There's a lot of this, like this guy played football, that's notable. J.J. played football. More to come on that as we get closer to the regular season. The one other notable small sample size performance, though, was Bryce Young in the Carolina Panthers. That was notable to me because it looked just like he looked last year down the stretch. The comfort level that Bryce Young is playing with, hit a deep ball to Tedero and McMillan. He had another pass to McMillan, who, by the way, I think overall
he looked pretty good. Yeah,
looked good. He had two.
Well, sort of.
He had 2 passes that he could have caught in there. Call them drops or whatever you want to call them. But one of them was crazy anticipation by Bryce Young.
Yeah,
where
he's got that back. That was his superpower coming out. Right. This was the thing for a guy that's literally my size. He's 5'10", 180 pounds. I don't care the 205 or whatever he managed to stuff himself into at the combine. He's 185 pounds maximum. Bryce Young, and the question for that is, for a guy that size, how do you play at the NFL level? Like, what is your super trait? His super trait was anticipation. And even within that offense, he had way better anticipation than Mac Jones, than Tua Tagovailoa. And Tua Tagovailoa in the NFL has been a really good anticipation thrower. Young was better at that than those guys were. And obviously, early in his career, you just didn't see any of that because he was drowning. Like, he was just in over his head and couldn't deal with it. Now you're seeing that. You are seeing that Alabama anticipation ability back, and it's nuts. Like, he's genuinely elite at that, which is enough to make him very good at everything overall.
And here's what's notable. I don't think players always get dramatically better, but seeing the game in playing quickly, I do think gets better. Because Bryce Young wasn't doing this as a rookie. He wasn't doing it early last year, and now he is. I mean, there's the deep ball that he threw, there's the scramble drill touchdown that he threw, and then the anticipation throw to Tedero and McMillan. So again, stat line aside, seeing the comfort level that Bryce Young's playing football with matches what we saw last year, and maybe it's even better.
Yeah.
So that was, in a small sample size, I think really positive to say, all right, the guy's still looking like he did last year, maybe even better. And then the other thing I'll say, historically, I can remember a number of quarterbacks at this point in their career. So if we say, like Tyler Shough, I thought he was playing slow. I thought he was a tick late on everything. That's not a death sentence. There are players who have improved that historically. A guy like Justin Fields, the way he plays, I think he's still a tick slow and going through reads, seeing the field, what have you. But he makes up for it in other ways. Fields maybe has never come out of it. I saw Carson Wentz do this as a rookie. Saw Jimmy Garoppolo do this as a rookie. Then Garoppolo used to play lightning quick, where things just change over time when you get more reps. And I think Bryce Young is the next guy that I'm going to look back and say, okay, was not seeing the field, was not playing instinctually, was not playing with the anticipation that he had in college, and that at some point he got it. That point was last year, and I think he's carried it into this year as well.
Yeah, he looks like a different player than he did, obviously, at the start of his career when he got benched, et cetera. I think the takeaways for the Panthers offense generally in this game, it looks, and this is small sample size, obviously, but it looks like Bryce Young is going to pick up where he left off last season, which was playing extremely good football late in the year, better football than the stats would say. My question is more now, there was a little bit of a question, I think, about was he going to be able to do that coming into this year? I think he will now. My question is, how permanent is that? How fragile is that? Is that something that's now just there? Bryce Young is now good, the end? Or is he only ever a bad game away from losing all his confidence again and going back in the tank? That's going to be my question for Bryce Young, is what happens when he hits the first stumbling block? McMillan, we're going to say this about a lot of rookies, but he looked like he did in college, which is the positives and the negatives, right? He looks good after the catch. He looks like he can make spectacular contested catches. He also looks like he's a little bit vulnerable to – he has weird sloppy routes sometimes that I've never understood. Like, they're not fatigue related because they can happen the second snap of the game.
Right.
He just has weird, lazy, sloppy routes where it's like, I don't understand what you're doing on this play. It just looks like you're not bothered. But I'm sure it's not that. Like, I can't imagine why a guy in the second play of the game would be like, I'm kind of mentally checked out already. That doesn't make any sense to me. But he has those still. He has plays where he gets absolutely bodied, man coverage down the sideline. But then he also has plays where he can go and moss a dude. He also looks great on in-breaking stuff. That's where he's like Drake London, where those guys with the big bodies that might not necessarily be able to, run crispy routes and stuff, you make them run a dig, 10, 15 yards down the field, they just break open into huge amounts of space. Then they've got the big body to take advantage of that. So he looked like he did in college. And then Jalen Coker from last year looks like he's going to be like he might be their wide receiver too. Still, like,
he looked good again.
But that core now is Tedero, McMillan, Jalen Coker might be the 2, Adam Thielen in there is the 2, 3, whatever. And then someone is going to try and, get reps as an extra wide receiver 4. And then Leggett needs to carve himself a role from somewhere, whether it's just designated deep threat or he's the odd man out at the moment trying to find where he fits.
And he got thrown out of the game with a fight in that one.
Didn't help, yeah.
But Leggett, I mean, wide receiver 4 in my offense, Sam, is always the deep threat, right? That's your Khalif Raymonds, that's your John Ross, that's your speed guy, and Leggett is big.
That's the role
big
that
body,
is there.
fast receiver.
Yeah. I mean, whatever about even if he can't get any better and become an all round whatever, that's the role that's there in that offense for him. So he should have a role even if it's a small one because there's nobody else that has that if he can do that.
One other notable quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, played 1-for-1 with a touchdown.
That sounds good.
They got a short field off of a turnover, chucked a back shoulder touchdown, and then called it a night.
Okay.
It's interesting because the Chiefs have often played him a quarter or a half or whatever. It's like they let the starters play, and then they rest for the rest of the preseason. I'm not sure if he's going to come back out again. I thought they were playing more like they did last year.
Well, a lot of teams do it where they're like, the starters get a series. I always find it quite funny when they make like, I don't care if the series is 15 plays or one play because we got the ball at the 1 yard line. Like they're going to be that always strikes me as quite funny. The Chiefs apparently do that.
So Mahomes has the 100% touchdown percentage that he should just sit on this preseason.
The receiver that he threw to, Jason Brownlee. Like you remember anyone that watched Hard Knocks with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and stuff? Brownlee was one of those young receivers that they had, and they found space for both of them on the roster. And like he was an intriguing guy because of that. Like he's big, 6'2", 200 pounds. Like he's got a skill set. Obviously, it didn't work out with the Jets because he's now with the Chiefs. But they were excited about him way back in Hard Knocks.
The quick aside, right? I mean, preseason, it's some sloppy football. We know that there's a lot of players out there who are not going to make the team. But then you see so many players where you say, this guy has a useful skill set. I want this guy on my team, or I'd love to develop him. But then it's like, okay, is he one of the 5 best receivers on this team? Is he one of the 4 best? I see this with edge rushers all the time. Oh, I love this guy. Good. He could be a designated pass rusher, but is he as good as the other number 3 pass rusher on all these other teams? And sometimes it's tough. I'm glad that they have bigger practice squads now where you can stash some players and develop them. But preseasons, I like finding all those unique skill set type of players or useful skill set type of players. They got Tyrell Shavers for the Bills making huge plays, 6'6" wide receiver, and it's like, is there even room for him on the team? And that's where it's like, it is difficult to make an NFL roster. There's some very talented players where a lot of times they're just the odd man out.
The levels of the game, like I think sometimes people don't kind of fully grasp the difference between the backups level, the preseason level, and the starting level. I mean, there are guys who are almost too good for preseason, but are not good enough to be on the regular season active, not even active, the regular season like serious role player spot, right? There are guys consistently every year that like perform very well in preseason because they're better than this sort of standard of the 53 to 90, right? Where everyone's got a 90-man roster right now, which means there's 40 guys that aren't going to be on rosters once we get to the regular season. There are effectively 40 guys, which is almost half the team at this point, that have no business being in the NFL, really. So there are guys that are better than those 40 guys. Like they're much better than that level of competition, but they're worse than the other 50. They're like trapped in this middle spot. And every year you see them perform really well. You're like, man, how come we can't find a spot for him on the roster? It's because he's actually not that good. He's just better than these 40 guys.
One really quick, I'm going to give you a mulligan here.
Look, hang on. Walt is out here in the chat saying mocking me over Jonathan Mingo, even though Mingo toasted a dude deep, only for his quarterback, the guy with the howitzer arm, to underthrow
so fast.
About 5
He's
yards.
so fast. Joe Milton was underthrown.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
the
Milton
guy that can throw it 80 yards couldn't get the ball out to Mingo.
Milton was a day late.
Roasted a dude.
A mulligan on your Tyler Shough. Whether you like the player or not, he's a second-round pick. Like they're not trading for Tanner McKee, who balled out, by the way.
Just saying
again, Tanner McKee.
Why you're all about creative solutions at the quarterback position. Now you're like, oh no, he's a second-round pick. He's untouchable. Go get Tanner McKee. Have some balls.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, I like aggressiveness and everything, but like they're not going to do that. They're going to give their second rounder a shot and then draft Garrett Nussmeier next year.
Look, bad teams stay bad. If you're not willing to go after Tanner McKee, that's your own fault.
Shough wasn't even that bad in this game. Just one awful pass. And some okay other stuff. All right. That's it for the quarterbacks
what
right
if
now.
Renner's the greatest draft analyst in the world? Renner loved Tanner McKee. We all thought he was crazy.
An NFL team in their evaluations were like, what's up with, because Renner was doing the PFF board at the time. They were like, what's he paying PFF?
Yeah.
That was the comment we got back. And maybe Renner was on the take and he stumbled into this. But
well, that's true. That's always a possibility.
We're going to take a quick break here in a second to tell you about our friends over at Circa. But coming out of that, we're going to give our top 5 rookie debuts. We're going to rank our top 5 rookie debuts. We're going to tell you about our friends over at Circa. We're going there in just less than 2 weeks. We're going to be over there at Circa as they're kicking off their contest. It's contest season at Circa. You can pick 5 games. Circa Million. You got Circa Million and Circa Survivor. We're going to help them kick off the entire event. Circa Million, you pick 5 games against the spread each week. You get 1 point for each correct selection, 1/2 point for each push, and there's $6 million guaranteed in total prizes. The first place prize gets $1 million in the coveted blue jacket, and then you have Circa Survivor. 1 pick per week, no point spread. Last the longest to win it all, $15 million guaranteed in Circa Survivor. Of course, you and I were there for week 18 last year when people were winning their $1 million. It was electric at Circa at the Sportsbook. It was a great time watching those games there, and we're going to be in town. We're going to be able to watch Farmageddon from there, the Dublin game. We're going to watch the kickoff to college football while we're there. We're going to watch some NFL preseason action and be there hanging out at the media event at Circa in a couple weeks. So come hang out if you're there, if you're in the area. But go check out Circa Million or Circa Survivor, which is kicking off right here. Both contests run from September 4th through January 4th. That's the entire season. You can sign up by September 6th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere. $21 million in guaranteed prize money at Circa. Visit circasports.com for details.
Yeah, I mean, Circa is an incredible place to be watching sports from anyway, whether it's the sports book inside the building or whether it's Stadium Swim at the pool set up outside the building. They are the most insane setups to watch sports that I've ever seen for anything. And then these contests are incredible as well.
Do we want to reserve our spot at Circa Swim? We're going to watch Farmageddon live from Dublin from Vegas.
Yeah. The thing that always concerns me, we can. We absolutely can. The thing that always concerns me a little bit as an Irishman is Vegas sunshine in August, watching a football game that's going to last, because it's college, maybe 4 hours. I don't have 4 hours in me in the Vegas sun without coming back looking like a lobster.
Bring the bucket hat.
I don't think the bucket hat is going to, I need more than that. I need to, you ever see the thing cricketers wear, like the zinc where they come out like white, like painted on? I need that stuff.
Yeah, you definitely
like
need
full, not even sunscreen, like sun block. It needs to be like paint.
Let's make sure that we're ready to go, that you're ready to go. But yeah, we'll be at Circa in a couple weeks. Go check it out. Circa Million, Circa Survivor, circasports.com. All right, man. Let's rank our top 5 rookie debuts. Let's really piss some people off.
Oh, great.
Because there's a lot of fun ones in here.
Yeah.
I had a lot of honorable mentions just to hedge. I made up my own. I hedged a lot on here.
You put yours in order?
I did.
Okay.
I'm gonna count. I'm gonna count down. I'll do my 5.
Okay.
Because that's what the sheet
but
says.
So just to, I don't know how you did yours, but I'm only looking at people generally that played a serious amount of snaps. So like Josh Simmons, right? People are like, oh, Josh Simmons played 11 snaps. It was perfect. Love it. It's 11 snaps. Like,
I went.
Only a couple of them were realistically like one-on-one plays. So
my criteria.
Josh Simmons didn't make my list.
My criteria was not simply who were the best rookies. I went slanted to like who's making an impact, like what the most meaningful rookie debuts.
But my point is, I set a playing time threshold.
I did not with a guy on my list.
Wow.
I did not because it was that impactful.
I know where you're going there.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So this is impact.
Yeah.
And, of course, a little bit of agenda, starting at number 5.
Agenda, absolutely.
Willie Lampkin. I mean, he should have been number 1. He's number 5 on my list, but number 1 in my heart.
Yes.
Willie Lampkin.
Throw up the picture. Where's
Rams
the picture?
center. He had a 94 PFF grade.
saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was burying dudes. Again, it is the same thing. So at center, Willie Lampkin, playing with the 2s. He's playing with the backups. It was against backups.
Whatever.
With the Cowboys.
Well, this is another
when
good example.
When he gets his hands on you, though,
yeah,
the play is over. The few times that I've seen Willie Lampkin lose in the last calendar year.
He was wrecking big people, too.
No, I know. The leverage advantage thing is huge. He sometimes will lose right off the snap, right? He snaps it. He's a little late with his hands. But I think that's the thing.
But remember, he was a guard.
This is what I'm saying.
We're new to this.
So we saw this at the Senior Bowl. He had one rep where Deion Walker, who had a nice week too, a couple nice rushes. Deion Walker, 6'7", 340, whatever he is, beat him right off the snap. I think it was Walker. And all I saw is like Lampkin's he's a little late with his hands. He's getting used to the snap and shooting his hands. I am telling you, once he gets a little bit better at that, I mean, legitimate, better version of Aaron Brewer, who's been a dependable starter in the NFL. When Willie Lampkin gets his hands on you, it is over. The play is done. And not only done, but you might end up on the ground. You're probably ending up on the ground.
Can I quote?
He is an absolute weapon, Sam.
Yeah, he is. Dude, I looked to spoiler alert, but he makes my list of 5 as well. He looked fantastic. I mean, Brandon Thorne, friend of the show, was out there tweeting him. I think he had 4 pancakes or something in his snaps. Like, he is burying guys, and it's not just, oh look, he got to a linebacker, he buried him. He's like the combination block on a defensive tackle and that initial like shunt, right? Like the hands and hips and shoulders into the guy. He is moving people, and yet he's a tiny human being for an offensive lineman. There's a picture out here of me and him at the Senior Bowl stood next to each other, and we're basically the same size. And I don't know if it's crossed your mind so far, but I am not offensive lineman sized. I am not NFL offensive lineman sized. Now, in fairness to Willie, he is both twice my width and has longer arms than I do. So that's a big help in this regard.
Will, when he goes to the Hall
look
of
at
Fame,
that. That's how big he is.
Right?
This is an NFL offensive lineman right now.
And a good one.
A good one. Can I quote the great Ben Stockwell to you?
Yeah.
Probably won't like me saying this, but what the hell? You put things out there on WhatsApp, you never know when it'll make it onto the show.
It's fair game.
Ben was tweeting or texting me after the Willie Lampkin performance, and he said he was a full-on small guy nuisance blocker yesterday. Absolutely, right? And then he says, McVay needs to get him some first half looks to see if it works against better than the Cowboy slappies, was how he termed it. I agree wholeheartedly. I think, look, like we said with Shedeur, right? He has earned himself a better look. He's earned himself first-team reps. Willie Lampkin has earned himself first-team looks. Ben says he's never talking to me again after that.
I can't recite the text message that I got, but let me just say I sent like a love what I saw from my guy Willie Lampkin to Les Snead. I just sent him a text. It's not like wasn't like a crazy response or anything. It's just out of courtesy,
out of respect to Les.
Respect.
Yeah.
You don't have respect.
I
for
of
Ben.
course have no respect for Ben.
I do for Les, but I had to push the Willie because I text other GMs. I'm like, hey, love this performance by this guy, and I don't get responses sometimes.
But this is we just talked about being better than the 40 guys that aren't going to make the roster, and then now where are you relative to the 53 guys that are? Willie, we've just seen, I think already in a game, Willie and the Senior Bowl as well, right? Willie Lampkin, I think, has shown consistently now he's better than the guys at the bottom that aren't going to make the roster. Now let's see. Well, can he? How good can he be?
Here's what's tricky about this whole situation. They have Coleman Shelton there, who's been
I'm not saying he should start, but we should see, can he do this against starters?
They have Coleman Shelton and they have Bo Limmer. Both have started at center in the NFL, been okay.
Right.
Limmer's in his second year. And when you're talking about keeping 8 offensive linemen, maybe 9, they need to have the versatility. Could Willie play guard if you needed him to? That might be pushing it from a size perspective. Although, I mean, if I'm not going to doubt Travis Hunter's ability to play 2 ways, I'm honestly not going to doubt Willie Lampkin to play guard and do what he can. But I think as a center, and then I could see McVay, if he does make the roster, and I do want to see him against ones and not the slappies. Couldn't you see McVay? They used Ben Skoranek as a fullback.
Yeah.
Right? Couldn't you see them using Willie Lampkin? Because what he's able to do, his angles are great. He's very quick and efficient. I know his workout wasn't great, but he's a fast football player. And like I said, when he gets his hands on you, it's like a low leverage wrestler. And the question when somebody doesn't have traditional size or whatever, or speed or whatever it is, it's like, does that affect his football playing? And a lot of times it does. Like, this guy's slow. Nobody cares about him as a deep threat. This guy's small. He gets beaten up on. I haven't seen his size become an issue very often.
But it's because it's so. This is a reminder for he's not just a guy that's the same height as me, right? Like, remember when Jason Kelce was asked who gave him the most problems as an NFL center? Kelce being a kind of undersized guy, but borderline Hall of Fame caliber center, right? And Kelce said, look, obviously guys like Dexter Lawrence were incredible. Aaron Donald is incredible, but he tended to rush over guards more than me. And then the third guy he named was Poona Ford. And he said the reason Poona Ford was such a pain in the ass is because, like me, he was small, short, undersized, but he had longer arms than I did. So he invalidated the only advantage that I had over these other guys, which was the leverage battle. Willie Lampkin is my height, but he has like, I forget what but it was like 6'7" length or 6'7" height of wingspan, right? So he's like short, but he has ridiculously long arms, which means he is a leverage monster. So for almost everybody out there, he's not actually at a size disadvantage because he can get his arms on you and he's lower to the ground than you are, which makes him incredibly difficult to beat as a blocker.
So those maybe should have been number one after Raven about this. But I went by this impact and what it means, right?
Anyway, so, number 4 on your list.
So Willie Lampkin's number 5. Number 4 is Mike Green, Baltimore Ravens edge rusher. In part because he went up against my friend Blake Freeland. And Blake was okay against him, but Blake's like 6'8", and Mike Green's bend around the edge was unbelievable. And so when we talk about impact and what does this mean, I mean he makes an impact right away. That was a couple. So Mike Green's, I thought his burst, his speed to power, and his bend. Did he show that type of bend at Marshall? Maybe
no.
Not. I mean, I saw more. I can't believe he just bent around the edge the way that he did 2 or 3 times in this game in an incredible way. Now, Blake Freeland, like I said, he's tall. He's 6'8", he's long. Maybe that's just the strategy against the monster tackle. But Green's got freaky traits, right? So all that stuff's good. And I think he makes an impact.
Freakier, yeah. But I mean, based off those reps, they're potentially freakier traits than people gave him credit for.
Yeah. And look, we know what happened with Mike Green, fell in the draft to the second round. We both thought if he went in the top 10, he is that type of talent, and I think he backed that up with his debut.
Right.
Tied for number 3 on the list. It's my show. I can do whatever I want.
Sure.
Tied for number 3, Shedeur Sanders and Jaxson Dart. I took both of the rookie quarterbacks. Little hot buttony issues. Put them dead smack at number 3. It wasn't number 1 or 2.
No.
But because they're quarterbacks, the impact's a little bit more, a little bit stronger. Because I think both players have a chance to see the field earlier than expected. Shedeur Sanders seeing the field with the ones earlier than expected from QB4. Jaxson Dart maybe seeing starting opportunities earlier than I expected because they both performed well. Shedeur Sanders, Jaxson Dart. We already broke them down, but I have them tied for 3rd.
Okay.
Number 2, Browns linebacker Carson Schwessinger, who was a run game nuisance in and around the line of scrimmage, taking on blocks, making tackles. They got him at the top of the second round, and he looks like instant starter, impact player. And, oh, by the way, at UCLA, I thought he was fantastic last year at UCLA, under 1,000 snaps of college experience. And so I thought he looked great. Teams were looking at him in the late first round, and I think he was as advertised in his debut. So I have him at number 2. And then number 1, number 3 overall pick, Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter.
Now, people will look at, if anyone looks at his snap total, they'll be like, what are you talking about? He barely played.
He had 6 snaps.
Yeah.
He had 3 pass rushes.
Yeah.
Whether you're looking at PFF, NGS, all 3 were charted as pressures. They were. And they all came against the Bills' starting offensive line. So when we talk about impact, this was the most impressive thing. He had 3 snaps, 2 pressures, 2 wins against Deion Dawkins at left tackle, 1 win against Osiris Torrance at right guard. So they moved him around.
Yes.
So what we saw here is that the Giants, who we already know have 3 good edge rushers between Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and now Abdul Carter, they moved Carter to more of a 3 technique or a 4-eye to basically to have one-on-ones against a guard. And he beat Deion Dawkins, who the NFL just ranked as like a top 40 player in the NFL.
Pretty comfortably.
And is very good. So that's from an impact standpoint. This isn't about grading and who had the best or who was the best rookie, who wins awards. The fact that Abdul Carter went out there against a very good left tackle, one of the best offensive lines, starting offensive lines in the NFL, and made that kind of impact right away. If he's that good, it does change the fortunes of the Giants. Like, it really makes them that much better. And when we talk, I ranked them as the best defensive line in the NFC East, better than the Eagles, and it's because what Abdul Carter is capable of doing. And he showed that on his 3 snaps. 3 pass rushes.
Penn State linebacker, edge, convert, wearing number 11. He was always going to get kind of Micah Parsons comparisons, which are always unfair, to a guy that's that good. But Micah Parsons has said, he gets asked all the time, is Abdul Carter going to be the next one of these guys to come out of Penn State? And he's like, no, he's going to be the best of all of us. Like, Micah Parsons is saying that Abdul Carter is going to be the best of those guys from Penn State. And, maybe he's just gassing him up. But we've talked before, last year was his first year playing as a full-time edge rusher. You could see the development throughout the season, and he was relatively not one-dimensional, but like relatively Spartan in terms of the number of ways he had to win. If he's added to that, or if he's just simply that dynamic, I mean, the sky really is the limit for how good Abdul Carter could be. And at least in 3 snaps, it looked like he's absolutely going to be that good.
Look, there are other pass rushers that I'll mention. It's like, this was against backups. Let's see him against starters. He did it against the starters. It was very impressive.
I mean, I'm no expert, but a 100% pass rush win rate is good.
I think it is good. You are a stats geek, so I could see you leaning on that. So those are my top 5: Willie Lampkin, Mike Green, Shedeur Sanders / Jaxson Dart, Carson Schweschinger, and then Abdul Carter. I have a couple honorable mentions that I'll mention just to give them shout-outs in a second. But who else? Who did you have on your list? And you didn't rank them specifically?
No, though they kind of more or less in order, so we can do that. The top 3 on my list are players you've already mentioned. So Jaxson Dart was number 3 on my list. Willie Lampkin was number 2 on my list. And then I put Shedeur as number 1 based off not so much how his level of play was the best of any of these guys, but again, given the opportunity that he had and the fact that he took it with backups and blah, blah, blah. Not that he was necessarily under a ton of pressure, but it was a rare opportunity, and you couldn't have done much better than he did based off that. Yeah. So he was my number 1 guy.
Impact, right? That matters.
Yeah. The 2 guys that were not on your list that made mine. Number 5, I guess, JT Tuimalau for the Indianapolis Colts. Played a decent amount, got 4 pressures, I think. Looked good doing it, a couple of sort of smart plays, where he was like unblocked on one, steamrolled to the quarterback, buried him, unblocked on another, kind of read correctly the bootleg and, stuck to his assignment, was able to disrupt it, just generally cause problems. That's kind of had the sort of impact. You remember we talked about him being a little bit like the Latu, right? And how these sort of well-developed, from a technical standpoint, pass rushers should hit the ground running in the NFL. Didn't happen for Latu. We're like, is it going to happen for JTT? At least in one preseason game, did.
He did look very good in that game. I thought he looked a little more juice than I think we saw at Ohio State as well in the early going.
And then
looking forward to seeing him at practice.
The 4th guy on my list was LeJohntay Wester from the Baltimore Ravens, who I think won himself a roster spot with his return touchdown and looked good generally in that game.
A Ravens team where Keaton Mitchell, I almost said Elijah, Keaton Mitchell looked great as scat back type, and now that as a complement to what they already have in the backfield, namely Derrick Henry. And then you have LeJohntay Wester, and I made that comment when Shedeur Sanders, by the way, last year had a good group of pass catchers. Of course, you had Travis Hunter.
All of those guys have flashed already.
Will Shepard, Jimmy Horn Jr. And then LeJohntay Wester, man. Every game I watched, he had that game-tying catch against Baylor. He was great after the catch. Every time I watched, I'm like, dude, this LeJohntay Wester's stealing the show on this Colorado film. And then he's got the punt return and a big, nice catch down the field.
He had a couple of catches. Yeah. The punt, he had more than one punt return that was decent. I mean, he had one nice one, and then obviously one where he housed it and took it for a touchdown. And then, a couple of nice catches. He won himself a roster spot in that game alone. I mean, if he gets hurt tomorrow for 3 weeks, I think he still makes the roster.
Then I hear Patriots fans already. Where's Travion Henderson? So he has to get my honorable mention. So that was your 5. We had some crossover in our 5s. Travion Henderson. If I'm going to put Abdul Carter on there for a small sample size, I probably should have put Travion Henderson because his first NFL touch is a 100-yard kick return for a touchdown, toss play for 18 yards.
Toss play in particular, he looks like he's running at a different speed to other people.
That's it. When we're talking impact, the speed is there. And I think it was Daniel Jeremiah said, it might be this year's Jahmyr Gibbs. And, I usually, even if the comp ends up right, Abdul Carter, Micah Parsons, I hate it. I hate those comps. I don't want to do that. But Daniel Jeremiah said, people around the league are saying that could be the Gibbs of this class, where he's not going to be the top-ranked running back, certainly not going to be above Ashton Genty. Not going to be above a Marion Hampton for a lot, but he might, have that speed factor where he just looks faster than everybody. And through a couple snaps,
Yeah.
He did. So that was impressive for Travion Henderson.
Yeah, absolutely. The toss play in particular. I mean, he was one where it's a classic example to me of sample size thing. Like, he just didn't play enough for me to rank it. I understand impact, et cetera. The return was kind of ridiculous, though. Like, that was a joke of a coverage from Washington. It reminded me of some of those old Devin Hester touchdowns where the thing nobody ever gives credit for was how good that coverage unit or return unit for Chicago was. Their special teams, when they had Devin Hester, was absurd. And not so much the punt returns, because he was, A, the greatest ever at that, and B, made a lot of insane plays as a punt returner. But some of his kick return touchdowns, when you watch them back, it's like there's nobody there. Like, he just has to turn and run a straight line towards all the space, and he scores a touchdown. Henderson was through to the kicker without doing anything other than running in a straight line. All he had to do was run and then cut around one guy, and he's housing it for a touchdown.
Touchdowns.
So it's great. He outrun everybody once he did that, but that was one of the easier kick return touchdowns you're going to see.
Yeah, but high level, you just see, okay, there's some
But the
juice.
burst on that toss play was the one where you're like, oh, he looks faster than everybody that's there.
I'm looking at things high level where there's some juice added to the offense for New England. Kyle Williams ran a couple nice routes, should have had a touchdown in there. That's something different added to that offense. LeJontay Wester and Keaton Mitchell, okay, there's something added to that Ravens offense in addition to what they have. I like looking at the preseason like that. Like, this team's going to, has, these couple players that could make an impact here.
Yeah. A couple of other people that we should mention at some point.
Who else you have here?
Well, I'm surprised you haven't brought this up already as a noted aficionado in this. Jacksonville Jaguars kicker, Cam Little, nails a 70-yard field goal.
We're not there yet.
What do you mean we're not there yet?
I've got a couple more rookies I just wanted to shout out.
Rookies?
I'm driving the show, man. You can't out-host me.
I can do whatever I want.
You cannot go to the next segment until I'm done.
I can do whatever I like.
Rookies to shout out. Donovan Edwards, Jets running back, 72-yard run in there, looked pretty good. Undrafted rookie out of Michigan. Okay. Weird career. Not sure if he ends up anywhere, but looked good. Torrey Horton. I'm surprised you didn't mention Torrey Horton.
Torrey Horton looked good.
Seattle Seahawks wide receiver, 5th rounder. Has a chance to really make an impact. Looked really slick on that touchdown. Catch it, weaving through guys.
He looks good.
Jacory Krosky, Bill Merritt. Just because he's apparently now going, instead of Jacory Krosky Merritt, he is Bill Merritt.
That's such a weird pivot. Jacory Krosky Merritt has become Bill Merritt.
Can somebody confirm that? Because I just kind of saw it out in the
Bill Merritt
Twitter sphere.
Is like the local golf pro.
Yeah.
Bill Merritt's not an NFL running back. Bill Merritt is the guy that gives you your tee time.
Mike Renner had the name theory.
Yes.
When you have a funky name,
right,
you're more likely to watch, right? Renner was the first guy who mentioned, by the way, Bill Merritt when he was Jacory Krosky Merritt. So I got to talk to Mike and see if this diminishes.
I mean, he already went in the 7th. He would have been undrafted if he'd been Bill Merritt.
Oh, yeah. Barely a camp invite.
Right.
So this might hurt his stock.
That's what I'm saying.
But it was notable. 2 other guys I just wanted to mention. Gunnar Helm, Titans tight end.
He was the guy that ran the 4.9, and then it turned out he'd rolled his ankle in his 40 time.
Joint practices, he looked pretty good. I think he's going to make an impact. And then dude was getting dirty in the run game against defensive tackles and defensive ends. I was impressed with that. Caught the ball pretty well. I think Gunnar Helm was impressive. And then Bashal Tutin, running back from Jacksonville. What I didn't love about him, speed guy out of Virginia Tech, they just got him on the edge a lot. I was wondering about him running between the tackles. He did that pretty well the other night. So I can't mention every single rookie, but just want to shout out a couple other guys that just stood out along the way before we talk about the long field goal.
Yeah, I mean, Hayden Winks from Underdog was sort of tweeting about him and said the pros is scored a touchdown. The con is it was late in the 4th quarter.
Who's that?
Bashal Tutin. Like that's
I mean, they've
from a fantasy perspective,
they have a lot of depth on that in that running back room.
Yeah.
But now we've got this other stuff to mention. I've got a list of stuff, but let's start with the field goal. We got some opinions here.
Cam Little made a 70-yard field goal. That's insane.
It was.
I mean, the NFL record is 66. It was from Justin Tucker, and Justin Tucker's leg was only good enough to make it bounce on the post and clear 66. 70 yards was good and had room to spare. I mean, not much, but like that might have been good from 71, 72. That's pretty crazy.
I made the point Did the Steelers come after it enough? I don't know. I made the point.
Did they come
of all
after
the
it
things
enough?
of all the things that you can't say like, oh, it's in the preseason, it can't be a record. Kicking does feel like the thing where you could say it's a record. It's kicking.
It is. Imagine breaking an NFL record by 4 clear yards and it not counting because it's preseason.
Yeah, because you can't really break preseason records. Nobody's going to set the passing game record, passing yard record, or anything like that. The only thing you could do is a longest play or a one-off type of thing. This should count. This should count in the record books. Like if someone hit a 600-foot home run, but it was in spring training, that should count. That defeats Frank Howard's 565-foot home run.
Okay.
If you hit it 580 in spring training, that should count.
This
should count.
This is now multiple kickers in the NFL that have this kind of range, though. Remember, every time you watch a Cowboys game, they keep going, maybe they'll give Brandon Aubrey a shot from 85 yards. Like, we're in this world now where there are multiple kickers in the NFL for whom I think coaches are genuinely willing to give them a 70-yard kicking opportunity. And if you think about that, a 70-yard field goal, you don't need to get over halfway before the half or the end of the game to take this kind of shot. Now, okay, there's risk attached to it, right? We've seen way back in the day, people will put a guy back to return it. But this was 70 yards and it had room. Like, it wasn't in danger of being returned. It was good and it cleared by a couple of yards. Did the Falcons... Is it the Falcons that signed that German kid from the IPP, the kicker, Lenny Krieg? The first thing they gave him was a 57-yarder, and he nailed it.
For someone that wants to get rid of kicking overall in the NFL, what if we didn't get rid of it, but it was like 60-plus yard field goals only?
You can only attempt something from 65-plus.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
And for the youngsters out there, I tweeted out the picture of 2008 Sebastian Janikowski, where at the end of the half,
they let him take a shot from 70 or something.
That was Lane Kiffin?
Yeah.
His first year?
The funny thing about
from
that.
From 75.
Yeah.
75-yard field goal attempt with 1 second left in the half. It landed like at the goal line. It's like,
no, it didn't. It didn't even make it anywhere near the goal line. That was the funny thing about that kick.
Close.
It landed at like the 15 yards to the left of the goalpost.
Return.
Yeah, and they returned it. It's like, that was the hilarious part about that game. Okay, Seabass back in the day was like the one guy in the NFL that people thought...
first-round kicker, Sam.
Yes.
First-round kicker.
But he was like the one guy in the league at the time that people thought had that kind of range in him. And the distance that kick was away from actually being good was hilarious. Like, this one was good from 70, probably good from 71 or 72, and it was, obviously between the sticks. This one was 15 yards away from being good distance-wise, and it was like 20 yards to the right of the sticks. It was ridiculous as an end result for, like, your coach has got the confidence in you, Seabass, to nail one from 70.
So do you agree with me? I want to make a move to make this an NFL record.
Sure. I think a 70-yard field goal should count as the NFL record. It's the longest kick that's ever been made.
Let us know in the chat. I want to give it. Cam Little deserves this. That thing was smoked. 70-yard field goal. That was exciting. That was
I do wonder,
best special team moment of
because these things just disappear into the ether as it doesn't count. What's the longest preseason kick that's ever been made before?
I don't know.
Because it wouldn't shock me if there has been a longer than Justin Tucker's record kick made in the preseason. We just don't ever count it because it didn't count.
Yeah, the NFL preseason record keeping is not great.
Yeah. So I would like to know if we've already had one. Like, is he breaking Tucker's record, or is he breaking the record of some kicker nobody remembers because they made a 67-yarder back in 2012 in preseason and nobody remembers?
Where's our guy from Elias that watches us? Can we get Elias on this? We need some preseason stats.
Yeah.
While we're here and ranting, and it's the Jags at least, for the youngsters again, the 2000 preseason finish. The NFL, by the way.
The one where...
The NFL tweeted this video out the other day. I swear it. So I tweeted this video out a couple years ago because I used to have the VHS, so I have the video of it.
Of course.
I think the NFL used my video. It was kind of grainy.
Really?
I think they used my video. Wow. But they didn't use through Twitter like they...
No, they stole it.
Yeah.
They stole their video from you who stole it from them.
Exactly. The NFL stole their own copyrighted video that I happened to post.
They pirated your pirated copy.
Just saying. But for those who don't know, the Jaguars, Tom Coughlin era, won a preseason game. They're down 4. They throw an interception at the goal line, so they're still down 4. The Giants safety picks it off, runs backwards into the end zone.
It was Antonio Pierce, wasn't it?
I don't think so. That was nobody. I don't think it was. Was it?
I think the linebacker is a person, like a name.
The guy, his teammate who tackled him, I think got cut immediately.
It was Antonio Pierce.
Look it up. So his own teammate's trying to tell the linebacker, do not come out, right? Because he thought he was in the end zone. Do not run this out. Just game's over. And the Giants, his own teammate tackles him, forces a fumble on him, pops the ball out, and the Jags
How am I going to find that video to verify who it is?
It's on the NFL main account, middle of last week or something.
I'm not going to. I need a thing to search in order to find that.
Look, greatest ending to a preseason game. So the Jags throw a game-ending interception. Game should be over. Giants player tackles his own teammate, forces a fumble. Jags' fifth-string tight end jumps on it in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown. And my 2000 Jags got the win. Yeah, and they sucked that year.
I can't find this.
It was sad. Anyway.
I thought that the linebacker that made the tackle was like Antonio Pierce or somebody like that. Like it's a name you know.
I didn't think either name was significant. All right, other stuff that happened. Robert Saleh's defense got after it from a pass rush perspective. That's the 49ers. He's in San Francisco. I was watching the young defensive tackles, second and third rounders, Alfred Collins and C.J. West. I thought they struggled at times at the point of attack. Something to keep an eye on because they need to play.
Yeah,
play the
that wouldn't be great if you're the 49ers.
Nick Bonito in that game for the Broncos on the other side of the ball had one of the most dominant stretches of play you'll ever see. It was like he was in the Niners huddle. He knew the snap count better than anybody on the field. He was in the backfield on like 5 straight plays. It was crazy.
He looked awesome.
Only 1 sack out of that whole thing, but just destroyed an entire drive by just being in the backfield, like intercepting handoffs.
Now that was one where, was against backups, but still.
It was, but just it stood out. And Bonito, it's kind of like the Bryce Young thing for me. Like you turned a corner last year, and I'm still seeing that. You may have even turned a corner even more. Bonito was a star from week 8 or 9 on last year. Isaac Tesla with a touchdown.
Yep.
Looking good once again. Mm-hmm. Rookie wide receiver for the Lions. Bills, 2 rookies, Deion Walker and TJ Sanders with a couple nice pass rushes in there. Walker had 2 nice rushes. Sanders had 1 really nice one. It happened to be the Jaxson Dart touchdown. But this goes into my defensive line depth and body types theory here that the Bills have added. You've got the 330, 340-pound Deion Walker. Sanders is barely 300, more of a Ed Oliver type of body. Just adding difficult-to-block guys up front.
Yeah.
Josh Simmons played football.
He did. And as I said, didn't play enough snaps for me to give him credit.
Starting left tackle for the Chiefs. Clean in pass protection, but continuing that ascent from falling in the draft due to injury to looks like a day 1 starter at left tackle for the Chiefs.
He does. Yeah,
Did you find this play yet?
I did. I found the play, and I found the number of the guy, but that hasn't helped me to identify who it is.
Because you have to find the 2000 Giants preseason roster.
So I'm currently on Pro Football Reference
I will go
to find that.
I have the game on my hard drive. I will report back to you later.
Wait, okay, here we go. It is. No, you're right. It's nobody. It's Dusty Ziegler, apparently. Is 52.
Yeah.
According to this.
Told you it's nobody.
Huh. All right. Well, that's I Mandela affected that then. In my head, that was somebody significant.
Turns out I trust anything else.
Turns out it's just Dusty. No, wait, Dusty, that's a center. That's not him. There's got to be a linebacker 52 as well because it's preseason. Oh, that's not going to work. We're going to need the 2000 preseason roster.
Listen, I have the game on my hard drive.
Find out who it is then.
It's at home. I'll report back later for those wondering.
It's not Dusty anyway because he was a center.
It's also not Antonio Pierce.
No, because he was 58, right?
Sure. But you never know. I also have on my hard drive the T.O., one of his first preseason games where he was number 16 and just looked unreal.
Yeah.
In his first game. They're like, this third rounder, small school third rounder.
All right, what else we got?
Bears edge rusher Austin Booker looked great again. Now, this was a 4th-round pick last year, under 600 career snaps out of Kansas. I thought he was a beautiful developmental edge rusher who showed a lot of flashes in the preseason last year. So last year at this time, we were saying, hey, watch out for Austin Booker's flashes, whatever. Didn't do a whole lot during the regular season because I think he was still in developmental mode. But he got after it yesterday. A couple sacks, forced fumble, really a pain to block. And this was Jermaine Ifedi was playing left tackle for the Dolphins. He's more of a guard, but he whooped up on Ifedi and then second rounder. Well, I was getting ready to say his last name, Jonah Savinier. I was getting ready to say him, and my old Boston came out. Second round, Jonah. So he beat up on 2 NFL players, but Austin Booker could be an impact player. Like he's long and athletic, even though he didn't test well. Long and plays athletic. And I thought he was if he had gone back to school at Kansas, he could have been a top 50 pick this last year. So I felt like the Bears got a top 50 pick a year early, and maybe he's just Mr. Preseason. We see that with some edge rushers. You know that. But he looked really good, dominant yesterday. Contact balance issues a little bit, knocked off his feet a couple times, but he had a lot of dominant wins. And then the last thing I want to add, I thought Kyle Trask looked pretty good. Remember the Bucs, they signed Teddy Bridgewater as their backup. Kyle Trask has been the backup there. I'm curious if he's on the trading block now. For some, it's a conditional 7. But for a team like the Titans, who have Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle as their backups, they just saw Kyle Trask up close. I wonder if Trask is the backup for Cam Ward or somewhere else around the NFL now that Teddy B has been signed from high school coaching.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be an intriguing backup option for somebody to kick the tires on. Can we take a beat just to praise Tim Boyle? Just the wonder that he's still in the NFL playing football. It's amazing. Tim Boyle finished the game with the worst stats of any of the Titans quarterbacks in that game. I think went 4 for 13 for 24 yards with 2 interceptions, which gave him
one was a batted pass. It wasn't on him.
Which gave him a passer rating of 0.6, which, I mean, that's bad. It's also
just in line with the rest of his entire career back to high school.
That's what's incredible to me, is it's terrible, and yet it's basically his baseline at this point for the last 13 years. And what's staggering about that is he still keeps getting jobs. Like, where else can you find a guy that's been terrible for 13 straight years and somebody's still going, you know what, I think it's right around the corner. I think we're right here. We're just on the cusp of him, the switch going on, and us getting the best out of Tim.
Kevin Jarvis. Look up Kevin Jarvis's baseball stats. For those, go to Baseball Reference, look up Kevin Jarvis and his major league stats versus his minor league stats.
It's just incredible.
Mind-blowing.
I would think. I mean, I understand, he's big, he's strong-armed, there are things, he still has, like, people that recruited him in high school and college are still in the NFL. Like, there's connections, right? I would, however, think that 13 years of bad play would start to change some priors.
I saw some stat the other day. It was like most preseason touchdowns in the last X number of years. It was Tim Boyle, Patrick Mahomes.
Skylar Thompson.
And Skylar Thompson. Yeah. That's great. So Boyle does it in the preseason.
Yeah, but only because he's always playing in the preseason.
But this was Kevin Jarvis, right? Because the baseball equivalent is you do it in AAA, and every time you get to the big leagues, you're terrible.
Immediately bump back down.
He had 10 years of awful pitching in the majors, and that's 10 years of opportunities over and over and over again. It's unbelievable.
It blows my mind that he is still getting NFL jobs. And we've had this conversation again with all these guys, right? If, why are you saying things like that? Clearly it's because of what he brings in the meeting room. Then hire him as a coach. Why are we still burning a roster spot to carry his ass?
Man. Rough. I just think Titans could use an upgrade at backup quarterback, and Kyle Trask could be intriguing. Maybe some other teams. Kyle Trask, intriguing backup candidate.
One guy I want to mention is the Raiders have one of those guys from the IPP, Laki Tassi, who was, if you remember, the smaller of the two monstrous people that we saw at the Senior Bowl. There was the one giant guy that you stood next to. Not him, the one that he made look small, but was still a functionally huge human being.
Basketball player.
No. The other one, the wider guy than that.
Oh, okay, I got you.
At the time, he was a defensive tackle. The Raiders have since converted him to the offensive line, and he was playing in his first ever football game this weekend. Pete Carroll sent him out with the captains for the coin toss.
That's cool.
And talked about how, he thought it was important to celebrate effectively the fact that this was the guy's first ever football game.
And it's an NFL game.
And he looked pretty useful.
That's
they have him
great.
playing guard. Ted Nguyen, who writes for The Athletic now. I forget, I might be butchering his place of employment. But he tweeted out, mini highlight reel. I mean, that dude moves people. He's a strong guy. He's a kind of interesting story because generally, if you listen to the interview we did with Dominic of the IPP, generally they're looking for, super athletes that have played some kind of sport to a very high level, because that shows you that they've got the discipline, that they understand what it's all about. This guy is fascinating because he hasn't played any sport to a high level. Even rugby, which is his nominal sport that he came from, he was not at any kind of high level at that. He was, in fact, at a very low level of rugby, but apparently is just one of those super freak giant human beings who happens to be incredibly strong and incredibly athletic, and they're going to try and turn him in. I mean, not only is he learning football for the first time ever, but he's already made a position switch. It's like gone from defensive tackle to offensive guard.
I love it. I mean, the payoff of, I mean, maybe they're not going to become one of the best left tackles in the NFL like Jordan Mailata, but the payoff of just finding a starter.
Yeah, I mean, look,
is awesome.
The general hope for any of these guys in the IPP is probably not even that you're making the roster year one. It's, practice squad year one, and then show that you can be a backup player, spot starter, role player, whatever in year two. If they can do that with it, if they can take a guy that's never played football before, and in fact never played really any sport to a high level, and have him go from that to make a practice squad, make a roster, and then contribute in any way, shape, or form, I mean, that's incredible.
It is. Good story. We should go see him out in Vegas. See if we can go see him.
Sure.
Anything else you want to touch on? Anything else that caught your eye this weekend?
I think that's it. I think that's all the rants that we've had.
The only other stuff that I just keep my eye on, we love team building. I love that whole process. There are Darnell Mooney is injured in Atlanta. I think it's touch and go if he's going to be ready for the regular season. Are they going to be looking for a receiver? Just down the street here, Geno Stone injured at safety. That's
the sad part about preseason is there's always some unfortunate and horrible injuries. Like Rondale Moore went down with a bad injury again, coming off another bad injury for him. That's a brutal run for his career, a guy that was so electric and dynamic in college and hasn't really done it in the NFL yet. That sucks about preseason.
It does.
We're losing guys.
So those are the couple things I wanted to shout out. So team, Bengals might need a safety. Patriots put Kyle Duggar from starting safety to roll in with the backups. He might be available. So some of those roster building team moves, there'll be some veterans on the move in the coming weeks, or at least available in the coming weeks. Some teams that don't, have saturated at certain positions, whatever it might be. And on Thursday's show, we're going to go through. There are some free agents still available, right? There are still, when teams have massive needs, defensive line, secondary, whatever it is, there are still some veterans who are like, I don't want to do training camp. I'll see you in a couple weeks, who are still available and capable of playing and fill in some holes. So we'll go through some of those on Wednesday.
Do you take anything from, people throw around the term preseason is meaningless all the time, and I think that's not correct in that I think for individual players it can be very
wins and losses are meaningless.
So that's the thing, right? So, but in between those two things is, do you think there is anything to units looking good or bad at this point? So, for example, and staying with the same team for both sides, the Bengals offense, first team played and they looked phenomenal, just roasted everybody. Conversely, the Bengals starters on defense played against Tanner McKee and the Eagles backups and got boned. Are either of those things significant?
There's probably something to it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we see defenses. I'm going to say no, because remember just 2 years ago, the Broncos had an historically bad defense through 6 weeks.
Yeah.
In the last 9 or 10 weeks of the year, they look great. Like within seasons, the starters look completely different. Never mind the backups in preseason in a quarter. So that's the data person in me, or just the logic in me thinking, no, let's not do that. But I was wondering about that watching the Packers the other night and how sloppy they played. The whole game was just Thursday night slop on a Saturday night. Remember that? And I don't know if that matters. Like the whole team just looked awful as a whole. But it's not. It's most. It's some starters, some backups. Does that matter going forward? I'd have to go back and see how much it mattered, because usually once week one happens, we forget everything that happened in the preseason. It's just interesting. A couple hype players, It's interesting for the Bengals in particular because, number one, they've had this slow starting record for the last few years, and they really want to try and avoid that this year. And number two, obviously they're still in this standoff with Trey Hendrickson, and absent Trey Hendrickson, that defense got wrecked by somebody else's backups. I mean, that's certainly not a data point that helps their negotiation stand. I thought Shamar Stewart made a couple splash plays in there too. But yeah, we've been on record saying the Bengals will look better defensively. So far, not so good.
Right.
And by the way, Tanner McKee looks awesome.
Yeah.
We didn't get to shout him out.
We did. We had a whole conversation about how Renner might be the best draft analyst out there because Tanner McKee looks great, and I think that the Saints should trade for him. And you were like, "No,
that's how good he was."
Talking about, we had a whole conversation about
outstanding. All right, man. Anything else?
No, I think we're done.
Quick programming notes. So we'll sticking to 2 shows this week and next week because we have some travel coming up. We're going to be going. If you're around, come say hello. We're going to go to Colts Packers. Their joint practice this Thursday. Then we're driving to Chicago, going to Lake Forest for Bills Bears. So if you're in the area, Colts practice Thursday, Bears practice on Friday. The 2 joint practices. Come say hello. If you're the Bears fan who said come by the restaurant years ago, let me know. I forget. I've lost the email or the note.
Was he next to Bears camp? Because we're like miles away from Chicago.
I thought he said Bears camp. I thought it was for training camp. Okay. Maybe it was for the game. I have no idea. But we'll be
I only vaguely have any recollection.
We'll be close enough.
Thing. You are obsessed with getting a free meal out of somebody.
I am. If anybody has a free meal in Indianapolis or Chicago, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing.
My last shout out, I had a friend of a friend, I think, who watches the show. Former teammate's friend makes buffalo sauce. It's over there. I tried it out this weekend. It was good.
Nice.
We each have a bottle. It was really good. Made some wings, used it as a dip and to cook with. It was good. So shout out to Murph's buffalo sauce.
Perfect.
Shout out to Murph's. 2 shows this week.
Check the mic at the33rd.com is the email for your mystery Chicago man to
check the mic at the33rd.com. Let us know where we should. Where should we eat? Generally, let's take food suggestions. The trip from Indianapolis to Chicago because we're driving there. We're renting a car.
Yeah.
We're driving. Hopefully, get some content out of this, Sam. We're driving there after practice on Thursday and going to the Friday.
That stuff is charged so we can actually film things.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let us know. Food suggestions between Indy and Lake Forest. So that's this week. Next week, we're going to Circa.
Yep.
So we'll do some bonus content from there as well. And then the week after that, we'll get into our groove of 3 shows per week. In season, it'll be 7 a.m. on Mondays. And then 9 a.m., new start time for Wednesday and Thursday for the season, 9 a.m., just like we're doing right now, 9 a.m. Wednesday, 9 a.m. Thursday. Got all that?
Yep.
You ready to go?
Sure.
That's it. All right, that's it for us today. We'll see you again on Thursday with more Check the Mic.